Hey everyone, welcome back with Beano Mac. Today, we're gonna have our final presentation of Resident Evil Outbreak. This time, we've already done times where we played throughout entire games. We've done individual scenarios with pretty much every character at least once, and this time we're gonna play the entirety of the game, and I've cut out all the cutscenes. So that way, you know, all the cutscenes and the door loading screens. But if you watched these before, then you'd already know that I cut out all the loading screens here, you know, for your you know, convenience and whatnot. But this time, we're going to play through all of the scenarios, and we're using, for each different one, we're going to play as a different character. But we're going to play as characters that were never meant to be playable in the main game. So I'm pretty sure that now that I'm playing it, after I've done the footage and stuff like that, I'm kind of thinking, I think Conrad was not playable in the base game. It's tough. I can't quite remember. But there's a small chance that maybe he was actually playable in the original game. I just can't remember off the top of my head, unfortunately. But out of the way, the rest I definitely know are unplayable in the base game and stuff like that. In File 2, when I can select my partners, we're going to show off a lot more of the unplayable characters, but I think Conrad has a zombie model in these games, especially I know for a fact he does in File 2 and like the end of the road. Which means, you know, obviously he didn't end up making the, surviving the outbreak, of course, but he's a part of, I don't know if it's Hunk's team specifically, but he's like a USS soldier. You know, Umbrella Secret Service or something like that. I don't know if that's what it actually stands for. That's my guess, but you can see he also starts with an antidote, which is probably why he didn't survive the outbreak, because, I mean, what the hell is that going to do against zombies? But he's pretty simple. I mean, he's a Kevin type, and I found out later on that because for Outbreak File 1, I couldn't find a code to just unlock all the characters naturally, and if you do, just kind of like going through the selection screen on the wrong characters, that will be enough to just, you know, soft lock the game right then and there. But
here's what I'm thinking.
I had to use, you know, code specifically, like, okay, this level I'm gonna play as, you know, Conrad, then I had to switch it out. Gonna play as somebody else, you know, next level, and so on and so forth. And the reason why these characters are all cut, like I said, Conrad, I'm trying to think. I feel like they only had one USS guy that was actually playable, and that was Luke. But I can't quite remember, because it was pretty cool. Because like in Outbreak File 1, they were really good about the collection stuff, where they had so many different characters. And a lot of them were just kind of like those generic citizens and the zombie models turned human that you would see and stuff like that. As well as, you know, like the doctors, the Umbrella researchers and stuff like that. Whereas File 2 didn't really have those for the most part for some reason. They had a few characters like that, but for the most part, they avoided that. But, I don't even remember what my original point was. Yeah, but like I think that yeah, I don't know, we'll move on from that. I'll probably bring it up later. But the point is there's a lot of canceled characters in this, and the reason for that is because in File, it was supposed to be one big game, and I think it was about Outbreak was supposed to have like 20 scenarios. But, you know, they just didn't have it with the space issues, and it just would have taken them too long to finish all the different scenarios, so that's why they separated it into 2 games. Jinkies. This, I could already fail this before we even started, because I don't think anybody got that crow. Get your hands off her, that's a lady. But yeah, so then File 2 added 5 other scenarios that were canceled, and I think End of the Road, I would have to imagine End of the Road was just like added specifically for File 2, because you know, some of the characters they use, as well as like the fact it's just another way to end the game. So I mean, that's just my assumption, I don't know for sure, but it'd be weird to me if like they were gonna make one big Outbreak game and they would have, you know, 2 variations of like endings and stuff like that. But we'll get to more characters, you know, and what their speculated scenarios that were cut were gonna be, because there's a whole bunch that we don't know about, and there's some that we don't even know anything about the NPCs or anything like that, which is like maybe like a singular screenshot. Maybe it was just something along the lines of there are characters and we can speculate. There's some interviews that have been done. I think one of the directors, they said, was Allison Court, who was the voice of Claire Redfield, and I know she did an interview where she talked about like certain things that were canceled in Outbreak, which is interesting to me, because not only was you know, eventually in Resident Evil 2 remake, due to her being in a union, I guess she was you know, she was taken off, pretty much removed from the games at that point. But it's just weird to me, I never heard of her being like a producer of like these games or anything like that, or working on any of these titles, so that's interesting. Thought if she was just strictly a voice actress. But who knows? I mean, she said it was something about money, why she didn't come back, so maybe the real reason why she didn't come back was, you know, maybe she just asked for too much money and not necessarily the union or whatever, but it really is just too bad. Because, you know, obviously, I think more so than any other character, I feel like Allison Court and Claire Redfield are very synonymous with each other to a degree. Like, obviously, you know, we've seen Resident Evil 2 Remake, we know that they can be separate from each other and stuff like that, but I feel like the face model, and, you know, they changed that in Resident Evil Remake as well. And, you know, I think for me, that's why it just felt like a lot of what Claire was in the original titles just wasn't there. And I don't know, it always bothered me, like, when they did the remakes, just because, and I get the remakes, they want to make new things, but, like, for the longest time, I felt like we had, like, these character models and the way that they looked, and, you know, from, like, the PS2 era all the way to the end of the PS3 era and stuff like that, you know, even though we went to different console generations, they always kept up the same looking appearances for most characters. And if they didn't, they still looked very similar to each other, I think. You know, like Resident Evil 6 Leon and Resident Evil 4 Leon are definitely different, but they still look like the same character to me. Whereas, you know, Resident Evil 2 Leon from the remake looks pretty different from the rest of those, any other model before him. But that said, obviously, now that they have this new continuity, I mean, obviously the Resident Evil 4 remake version of Leon, you know, of course, that looks really good, and it fits very well in the universe, in the remake, you know, universe with Resident Evil 2 remake and stuff. So, you know, you drop down in some respects, but then you bring yourself up in other respects, you know what I mean?
Are you okay?
I've always wondered too, I don't think we've ever really gotten an answer on this. I think we never really got an answer on, are these remakes the new canon, or are they something different at this point? So what I mean, like, are they different universes, or retellings in different universes and stuff like that, or, because it feels like some people, I think, they've said, like, you know, oh, well, of course it's not a new thing, it's only the first Resident Evil remake in which it's a part of the official canon and stuff like that, but I feel like that wouldn't be the case, because, like, even, like, some of the CGI movies they made, they use all the new remake models of the characters, like Jill and stuff like that, so I'd have to imagine that, like, these new remakes that they're doing, they're like the main canon story at this point. But I don't know, I don't think anybody's outright said it from, like, Capcom or anything like that, so who's to say?
Oh my god!
Oh.
But I don't know, storyline wise, I think I like the the original timeline just a little bit better.
No.
But obviously, you know, you'd also have to probably put the original Resident Evil 1 in there instead of the remake, so I don't know. So Resident Evil 1 remake added so much awesome stuff to it. And it was cool that they were able to finally add the George Trevor and Lisa Trevor storyline to that was supposed to be in the original Resident Evil 1 in the director's cut, but you know, unfortunately I think it was timing, they said, as to why they weren't able to put that stuff in, other than like I think one journal entry or something like that maybe. Sorry, well, there's quite a lot here, and I know I got all this ammo and stuff like that, but I'm just gonna try and, it's a long game, so I'm gonna try and just get through everything, you know, quickly as I can here. Jeez. Yeah. Alright. Now we just gotta combine this. Let's see if we can just go right in the middle. Alright, well, we got it. This is one of the few cutscenes I'll leave in for you guys, just because I think it's a really cool cutscene, all the zombies getting blown up. But for the most part, like I said, all the cutscenes are going to get skipped. And now we're on to the second one, and now we're going to play as another character named Clint, who looks like, based off his appearance, was going to be featured in the unused boat section, something to do with a boat. There's even, I forget if it's this one, file 2, or like both or something like that, but there's like one room that's left over from like this boat level, in which it seemed like there was a bunch of like umbrella guys there who like Clint from the looks of it, who were, you know, there to evacuate citizens from the boat. I think that would have been awesome if that was like an end game mission or whatever, where, you know, like in this game you have decisions where, you know, you leave at the university in the helicopter with the firefighters, and that's how you get out of the town. I think it would have been so much cooler if instead of a helicopter you left, and, you know, the other half of the survivors or whatever, you know, they left in the boat, and they were able to survive, you know, the city and stuff like that. But it's just one of the ones that they didn't finish. But I think there's like, they were planning to have like 20 scenarios, and I think there's like maybe 3 to 5 that we have actual information on, whether it's relating to characters or, you know, like I said, the previously like mentioned interviews, or the you know, just like magazine screenshots and stuff like that. But we're gonna go through all that stuff in this video. We got 3 hours, so there's definitely going to be a lot of time to go over stuff, and, you know, that's partly why I chose this video to do all my commentary on and stuff like that, because I just think that I haven't really done any talking points on Resident Evil Outbreak. You know, I always just left it silent, because that's what I did a lot back when I first started this channel, because I like to preserve the integrity of the video or whatever. But that said, I mean, yeah, I figured this was probably the best time for me to, you know, go over lots of information, especially when these characters are here. And one thing you may notice, it's it's a funny detail. Like I said, I thought when I inputted these character IDs that, like, it was gonna be like the actual character, and to test that out, when I inputted Clint, I picked Alyssa, and now we're just playing as Alyssa with Clint's skin over it. So that's why, like, he's walking funny, and you know, he's got Alyssa's voice lines and stuff like that. So that's a funny thing. So I don't remember the character types of all these characters, but I'm going to try and you know, pick the ones that I remember or think would be the actual character types for this. Just hold him off. Whoa, where the hell did Yoko come from?
Thanks.
Oh, it looks like Clint starts with a first aid spray, I think. That's pretty awesome. Which would make sense, too, for his character, because if he's supposed to help evacuate people out and stuff like that, then makes sense why he'd have it. But you can see, if like you look closely, when he enters the room, you can see he has the umbrella on his life preserver, because for some reason Umbrella's got to put their branding on literally everything, so that way people know that like who did all this shit. Oh jeez, now we got another one. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, like they did a really good job in Outbreak File 1 of having all these like characters who are initially just zombies and being playable human variants and stuff. And yeah, it's not the most interesting, but still, it was really cool that they did that. And it also always, like, I could understand File 1 because they already had the plans to make more Outbreak games. And I'm assuming it was never confirmed, right? Oh, there's the plant squirting. Ain't that hot? But
Come on.
in File 2, like, it was never confirmed if there was ever even gonna be a File 3. That's all speculation. File 3, in essence, is essentially just the hidden scenarios that we never got that fans were speculating that we were gonna get at some point, and we never did, which is very tragic. You know, I love these games. Obviously, it just wasn't the most popular series, though. Some say ahead of its time. And I agree with that, but I think there was also just the fact of, like, let's be honest, there's not... Yes, it's Resident Evil, but there wasn't, anything like frickin'... There wasn't Claire, there wasn't Leon, there wasn't Jill, there wasn't Chris. Not even guys like Rebecca or Barry or Carlos, like the side characters. Jeez, what the hell happened to you? But, there was never any of that in this title, and obviously that's the appeal of this, in my opinion, is the fact that you're playing as just these random survivors. And then you got to play as some of the side characters from like Resident Evil 2, like, you know, Marvin and Ben, you know, in File 2 and stuff like that. And, you know, there's a lot of cool Easter eggs. It does so much for the lore in this title.
What?
There's some awesome stuff, really. But like I said, I mean, a part of it is the lack of the mainstream characters, I think, probably hurts it. And you would think, like, okay, you know, why not just have these characters in the game as just playable extras, you know? Because, I mean, there's like over 100 NPCs that are, or I should say PCs. Uh-oh. There's like 100 NPCs in this game that are playable and stuff like that. So it's just weird to me that they never made it to where you could just play as like Jill and Chris, and then like I feel like they would be a lot cooler unlockables as like, alright, grab all the special items and stuff like that instead of the stick men and the stick women. I feel like they would be a way cooler unlockables. But maybe that's something we would have gotten in File 3 or something. But yeah, like I was saying, I understand why like these unused characters are unplayable in File 1 because they already had the plan to put them into File 2. But like you would think in File 2 they would have been like, alright, let's just put in all these characters that we already have on the disc that are likely not to get another chance to be playable. So let's put out the Clints, the Conrads, the freaking Miguels, the Max, the Hunks. It's something that always really weird, I wouldn't say weirded me out, but it was always strange that they never included him, was Nikolai is in a bunch of the cutscenes for Decisions. And yeah, he doesn't have like a character model because they're just cutscenes, but why the hell would he not be playable? I mean, it's kind of one of the biggest teases, I would have to imagine, for players. I mean, I wasn't a big Nikolai fan, but honestly, I'm sure there was a whole bunch of people that wanted to play as him that just couldn't because they just didn't make a character model for him.
God. No.
Alright, so this is a point where I kind of got confused on to what I was trying to do here.
Nightmare.
Because usually I'm used to like start on the 6th floor and having to head down, so gotta head back up.
Listen to me! Hey!
What?
Hey!
Alright, so apparently there was going to be a total of 18 chapters.
Huh?
What's wrong?
And like I said, End of the Road, I just can't imagine that being another scenario that wasn't initially included or something like that. Or that was initially included in the plans or something like that. That's just me, I don't know for sure. So technically there might be 19 scenarios in
I just
total,
had a thought.
and 9 went unused.
Here's something peculiar. Man, I cleaned up.
No shit.
Fine. I just had a thought. Let's just
But
try to stay
I don't know, I
calm.
figured it's that time we're gonna go over and we're gonna talk about all the cut content from the Cutting Room 4. As usual, I'm going to put the description or the link in the description. So if you want to see all this stuff for yourself, because there's stuff I'm not gonna go over like voice files and all that kooky stuff, pictures obviously I can't show on screen for the gameplay, but there's a Day in Raccoon. This is just unused text, just to show, like, you know, this is stuff that's actually in the game that just wasn't included in the final that you can see. So
Anything new?
there's just some unused text, you know, descriptions relating to A Day in Raccoon. And then there's the, you know, even looks like there's some cutscene data.
I'm not
So there's
sure
like a
this
bunch
is
of people, like random citizens, talking about, you know, what's going on outside of the motel. You know, gather everyone. What's the matter? He's gone mad. Look outside. Then Mickey says, stay here. Then there's a newspaper that says, mysterious incident in Raccoon City. Another strange body has been found, making it the 20th in a short space of time. Someone apparently named Nick says, my name is Nick Ramaga. I was a scientist at Umbrella. Please understand I had no choice. I thought once I got here, it would be all over. Someone says, let's take it one at a time. Nick says, at Umbrella, I was doing research on a certain virus. I had no suspicions since the company is positioned as a pharmaceutical company, but the virus we were studying was not as simple as it seemed. We were working on something unimaginable. At first, we did experiments with a small number of cells, but over time, subjects began to participate in the experiments. However, it was too late. We were deeply entangled in it all, and the way back was cut off.
Hey!
So that's an interesting bit of text. It looks like this is probably one of the saddest scenarios that was canceled, because it seemed like there was so much data relating to A Day in Raccoon. We have Mickey the character. I don't think we ever got Nick, the playable character, or any sort of model like that. I'm not 100% sure. But it looks like we were going to get a lot of exposition as to essentially what happened in Raccoon City, you know, from the scientists, you know, what happened, how things spread. He was going to inform all of the citizens about what happened. So it's just interesting to think that this of all of them was cut. Uh-oh. Boy, that was too close. That was almost a Clint sandwich. And as you can tell, like, this seems like there was a lot of cutscene data. There's even more. So Nick says, T-virus. When it entered the body, the test subjects had an unusual reaction. Eventually, they lost their minds, after which the infection reached a terminal stage. Hunger took over. The top would take the living dead. Under tight control, we continued our research. Every day, we turned into a nightmare. On one such day, there was an accident in the research center. Because of the unfortunate sanitary conditions, it got out. The virus spread through the center. At that point, all thoughts were on survival. So taking advantage of the commotion, Hilda and I were able to escape. Alright, so there's even another one. Hilda, the nightmare, did not end there. Already here, Hilda began to show symptoms of infection. What would happen to us after that? I think Hilda had realized by then what she'd gotten herself into. As a scientist, I knew exactly what would happen to anyone infected with the virus. That's why we've been working hard to find a cure. It was our professional duty. Day after day, I continued my experiments. However, what's the point of research if no one even knows about it? Shit, that's not what I'm thinking about. I've been thinking about myself. The most important thing right now was finding a cure for Hilda. I had to sacrifice a lot of people in this motel. Getting materials for experiments became too difficult, so I had no choice. Please forgive me. Here's a reporter. In a series of attacks that have been going on for some time, the injuries are getting more and more serious. These incidents are of great concern to the citizens. Raccoon City, a city where peace once reigned,
Go to hell!
has
What am I
become a
gonna do?
hostage to fear.
Go to hell!
The latest
What am I
news
gonna
from
do?
Raccoon City, groups of rioters have gathered in different neighborhoods. We assume the rioters' goal is to get a response from the
What am I gonna
government.
do?
We
am
are
I
now
gonna do?
over the scene. Helicopters have been assigned for us to surveillance. Then there's a female reporter.
I've been poisoned, you idiot.
You've already noticed, right? All the mess that's going down downtown, they're all acting like something has gotten into them. People are very agitated right now and can't do anything. In this situation, we can only watch the situation worsen. Dear viewers, these are real events that are happening right now in the center of our Raccoon City. We still have not been able to determine the cause of unrest, and the situation is extremely dangerous. So it sounds like after reading all this stuff, more than anything, A Day in Raccoon was essentially, sounds like it was going to be like the first scenario, and if not the first, it could have definitely been like a second scenario. And it seemed like this would have been really good to have in there because, you know, obviously we go from Outbreak straight to below freezing point. So it would have made a hell of a lot more sense for the story because we already know the story is so broken up and not connected in the Outbreak games. There's no way of telling exactly what is happening when.
Come on!
And I think that this would have been like a really good bridge from Outbreak to A Day in Raccoon, and then potentially, you know, however the heck we get down here, you know, maybe that's how we were going to get to the below freezing point. Somewhere from, you know, the original motel location. And it would kind of make sense because if we run into this Nick guy, maybe he would have showed us or told us how to get to this lab and maybe figure out something from there to help us or to help him or something along those lines. But honestly, even just some more I hear about it, and it's just mostly because like it was something that was unplayable and something we never got, but it just kind of stinks that we never got it to begin with. And even then, like, even if they didn't have it in file 1 because they, you know, maybe it was supposed to be another first scenario, but then, you know, Outbreak happened and then they were like, all right, well, we only need one of these to progress. They could have put this in. I don't want to say instead of Wild Things, but they could have put this in as the first scenario in file 2, and then have it to be where, you know, like essentially like 2 different stories in the game, right? Because I always think of like file 1 is like the story of like one set of survivors of 4, and then file 2 is a story of like the second set of survivors of 4. You know, so like nobody in particular, but like let's say in the first Outbreak game, it's, you know, the survivors are George, Yoko, Alyssa, and then we'll just, for the hell of it, I guess we'll go with Mark. And then let's say file 2 is Kevin, Cindy, David, and Jim, right? So that's how I always looked at it. Not as those specific characters, but it's just, you know, like a team of 4 in Outbreak and a team of 4 in File 2. There's a bunch of unused music being here. I can't really play that, obviously. Apparently there is the RPD Wabi theme on the game, but that was unused, which is sad. Because, I mean, that theme is iconic.
I feel nauseous.
It's a bunch of unused cutscene audio. And apparently there was a number of changes made to the cutscene in the first game scenario. Even the reporter, by the way, I'm going to circle back to him. In that last cutscene, he also shows up in the Outbreak cutscene at the beginning. Apparently he has a playable model too. So it's just not, like, I think you have to, it's one of those ones where it's like not actually finished, so you actually have to put in the proper model for him and stuff like that, using like game shark codes, and then you have to assign stats to him because he wasn't really meant to be playable, I guess, which is very interesting. But I don't know, maybe he would have been playable from A Day in Raccoon as well. Maybe they just couldn't figure out how to put it in the story, I don't know. There's also an unused cutscene in which Dorian confiscates your weapons.
Jim!
And apparently there's an unused full version of Greg's speech from Decisions when he's encountered in the game. And in the finalized version it was split up into 3 sections. And the second only occurs if Yoko is present. Interesting. I guess that was probably why they ended up doing that. There's online only cutscenes. Most of these can still be viewed with the recently made unofficial Outbreak servers, but as far as it officially goes, they can't be normally seen. So Decisions, due to the multiple endings and larger scope, this has the most online only cutscenes. So the intercom call. So this one's actually not true. But I understand why people think this. And I've actually showed off this cutscene in a few of my videos in Decisions. It's nothing really all that special, really. But all you have to do is, what this is when you finish putting in all the virus, the cure stuff, the daylight ingredients. Eventually a cutscene plays in which Greg, turns off the machine. But if everybody's not in the room, there's a your character puts, says over the intercom, hey, the virus is almost finished, come back up. But usually that is not shown because when you do this part, all the AI come in and usually hang out in the room. But if you say go and, enough times, one of them will actually leave, and then you can quickly put the last thing in and you'll see the cutscene of the intercom call. And then there's a bunch of pair endings that you can't get, and the reason, so there's like Kevin and Jim, right? But there's also like where Kevin talks about his standpoint of what's going on after having been left behind with Jim in Decisions. But there's also a version of that with Jim and Kevin, in which Jim is the one who talks about, how upset he feels about having been left behind with the virus, not wanting to infect anybody else. And there's a version of that for every character in the game, but in Outbreak, offline mode, they only have enough for, 4 characters. So, I think Mark is one of them that has it. Kevin is one of them that has it with Kevin and Jim, Mark and David. I think George and Cindy is one where it's just George who gets it, and then I think it's Alyssa and Yoko, where it's Alyssa's, the one who's narrating and stuff like that. So there's just 4 from there technically not playable in offline mode. But I'm sure also, if I were to, I'm sure there's got to be some codes out there where I could put the partners, change my AI partners for each scenario. So theoretically I could probably do something like that and maybe show off all the paired endings and stuff like that without having to do online mode too. So technically they're correct, but there's game shark codes that could probably
Oh,
probably work in that way.
I apologize if I surprised you. Please do not be alarmed.
There's also some unused player NPCs. In both Outbreak games, the player can unlock and play as NPCs found in the scenarios. Each NPC uses a character type of one of the 8 default characters, but has unique stats and starting items. Most of the player NPCs not found in the first Outbreak game can be obtained and transferred from File 2 via the File 2 converter. A large number of them are unused in both games, however. These characters can typically be only obtained through hacking via cheating device or similar methods. Like I said, that's what we're doing right here. Now this one is Mary, and this is an interesting character. This is probably the one I would have liked to have the most, played the most. And from what I can gather, we'll actually get to it in a little bit whenever it pops up. But well, actually, let me see if I can just find it real quick. Alright, I guess they don't actually have anything relating to these canceled characters for some reason on this cutting room 4 thing here, so that said, we're just gonna, from what I can remember about her character, so there's her, which is Mary, and then there's another character that works for the UBCS, I think they're called. It's the same guys that, Carlos and Nikolai, their team from Resident Evil 3, the Umbrella Mercenaries. There's a guy named Mac, and he has like a really goofy haircut, but I guess Mary and Mac, who we're going to play as Mac later at some point too, Mary and Mac were apparently in a relationship or something like that, and there was going to be a level called the Streets of Raccoon City, and there was, once again, would have been one that I think would have really done well to connect the story. It could have been like the second or third scenario that was planned, which is also probably why there's a lot more information on this one than other scenarios that were cut. But there was going to be a scene where like it showed off like a mother and a son walking in, turning into zombies after they hadn't been bitten, but infected by the, the tainted water supply in Raccoon City. So, I mean, there would have been a lot of good explanation as to what's going on in that scene alone that I think would have done, like, this whole game series very well. And then there's also, I guess in that scenario, it would have also revolved around helping Mary reconnect with Mac and save them and stuff like that, because I guess they had that romance like I mentioned. And I don't know, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, so I feel like that would have been like a really cool mission objective. And I think the idea, this is just my assumption, but I think the idea was there was going to be like supposed to be 2 survivors that were helping Mac, and then there was going to be 2 survivors helping Mary. So I'm assuming it would have been something like, I don't know if it depends on who you picked, or like just kind of like in Hellfire where you can either head up the ladder or you can head back out into the lobby, and then that kind of determines what path you're taking for the first half of the level. I don't know if that's what it was going to be, but it would have been really cool. And I don't know, like I said, I haven't watched the interview, but there was an interview with Allison Core, and she talked about a character named Kate.
We have to go.
And Kate is another character that was scrapped that we're going to go over a little bit, but she was apparently supposed to be, according to Allison Court, she was supposed to be like the Regis Licker, or Regis Licker, or whatever it's called, from Hellfire. And you can kind of see the similarities, but the costume colors are a bit different and stuff like that. But I think that her transformation, they said, was supposed to take place in Streets of Raccoon, which would have been, once again, cool, because you would have had that happen, and then, her coming back would have been saved for a later scenario, showing, once again, there was a lot more connection with these scenarios storyline-wise than what we got in the final games, which I'm happy with what we got in the final games, but that's definitely one of the biggest things that you could definitely argue, not just the online, but, something that a lot of fans really had to hate, about Outbreak in itself. But I do know that, we're playing as Cindy right now, and I do know for a fact that Cindy was, or Mary was a Cindy type, and, to establish a connection once again, it was Mac is a George type, so that way they both kind of like hang out around each other and stuff like that. So smart programming on the developer's part. Ooh, we got a tomato juice. Delicious. God, tomato juice is one of the nastiest things I've ever tasted. Let's see here. I don't think I have to go here, but just in case, I'm gonna open the shutter. I always miss this door for some
Oh
reason.
my god. What?
And I think this is, yeah, I think this is the document we need. Yep. Chemical code. I don't think, somebody even asked me this in my Hive key items and event checklist thing or whatever. One of those two, like, how do you get the code for the rooftop and the elevator? And I don't think they actually ever tell you in any of these files. I think it's just something, because it's the same code every time, it's just something you have to happen to guess or something like that. But I don't really know for sure, because I've looked over all the files in here, and I've gotten 100% checklist completion, so I don't know if there's some weird, random, code that, like, we just didn't really understand at the time or something, or what. But I'm going to be inputting this code in a second. I'm just going to save it on my phone real quick. We got to hurry up here, because eventually that blood is going to run out. So 3555.
Help me!
Let's just try to stay calm.
And thankfully the frickin'... Ooh, I never even noticed that B2FOK thing on the screen. That's pretty cool. But thankfully the elevator code for the rooftop is pretty quick.
Here!
This is in the way. What's wrong? Hey!
Oh, jinkies. Alright, thank God we had the invincibility frames there.
Oh my god.
Alright, gotta run past him quick. Alright, so I figure we might as well go through the characters that were unused, and I'm gonna go through all the Kevin types, or, well, all the types, and we got Kevin types first, which we have Billy. Billy is a UBCS mercenary character. It's possible he has some connection to Mac and Matt, though this is unknown for sure. Yeah, and Mac, unfortunately, if you're wondering what happened to him, I don't think Mary ever, like, has a confirmed death thing or anything like that.
Come any closer.
Like a zombie model or anything like that, but I know Mac, like, he ended up being killed by the Knicks, and as part of, like, his weird, like, body thing that he,
What?
you know, the Knicks and File 2's End of the Road has. He's like the big final boss in the series where he just grabs anything and combines it into his being to grow stronger. So unfortunately Mac, especially being unused, he just didn't have a happy ending. Matt and Billy are actually located close to each other in the data, so it's at the very least possible for those two to be connected somehow, since a lot of characters from the same scenarios are often grouped together in the data. But this isn't always true. Billy has an average health pool of 2,000 to 2,500, an exceptionally fast movement speed of 3.1, tying him for the fastest character in the game with Kevin. He has a rather weak damage multiplier, however, at 82%, making his damage output suffer compared to Kevin, and his infection rate is quite average for a Kevin-type character, which is 1.43 per minute, and he starts with a recovery pill in his inventory. Next character is Bone, who we're going to definitely play as later on in this. Despite him literally wearing the same outfit as David King, Bone is a Kevin-type. Yeah, I don't really understand that either, so it's just speculated he's like a friend of David's, because they literally have the same outfit, and you would think he'd have like the toolbox set, but I guess not. I guess he just carries that thing on him. Although unknown, it's possible Bone and David knew each other due to them both being plumbers, or at the very least worked for the same plumbing company anyway. So I'm not going to go over all the stats or anything like that, because I mean, like, what are you guys going to really do with that? But I'm going to go over the small description. Conrad. Alright, so yeah, Conrad was unplayable. I thought he wasn't. So he was the character we played as in the Outbreak scenario. Conrad is a USS. Oh, it's Umbrella Security Service, not Secret Service. Umbrella Security Service member. Not much else is known about him, though. He doesn't appear to have been used as a template for the USS zombies, as none of them look like him. I disagree. There's definitely one that was meant to be Conrad. You can see a picture of it. Some people are arguing that's not, because like the hair is a different color, but nah, it's clearly meant to be Conrad. Then there's Hunk. The legendary USS mercenary Hunk was supposed to be in the game. However, for whatever reason, he wasn't used. This version of him doesn't wear a gas mask helmet. He's a Kevin type character, and he starts off with a first aid spray. He's one of the top 10 most powerful characters in the entire game. Then there's Hunk B. In this version, wears his signature helmet, and he starts with a box of 30 handgun bullets.
George, come on.
So yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's really sad that Hunk was never a playable character either. I mean, even once again, maybe they didn't get permission to use him or something like that. Maybe they just needed permission from whoever created Hunk to be able to use him in the game, and like they just said, nah, don't want to do that. But I don't know. I mean, once again, they could have used Hunk as like the extra bonus character instead of the stick figures. But I mean, it does sound like he was a pretty badass character, and we're definitely going to be playing as both versions in this playthrough. Miguel was supposed to be a USS mercenary. Supposedly his story revolved around him being the only other survivor of Hunk's Alpha team after an attack from William Birkin. As a result, he has a bandage around his head. A version of him with a gaping wound on his body exists in the playable character data directly after his. This one lacks stats, however. His texture mapping is broken, and the second version is broken, and it will look weird when loaded into the game. And he starts with a 20 handgun bullets. Alright, so that's all the Kevin types. The Mark types is Clint. So Clint, he's not supposed to be an Alyssa type, he was supposed to be a Mark type, I guess. Clint is a UBCS mercenary. Unlike other characters, his uniform is a bit different, featuring a green baseball cap, khaki pants, and a white vest with Umbrella logos on it. See, I don't know if maybe that was the direct thing they used to describe him in game or something in the files, but I don't really look at him as like a UBCS mercenary. Just like it seemed like he was a guy that was just there to help evacuate people out, you know, almost like a volunteer thing. Then we have some gym types. So there's Chuck, Derek, Matthew. And they don't have any sort of descriptions for whatever reason. But Chuck and Matthew, they're like citizens of Raccoon City, but for whatever reason, we never got like a second pack of them. Because there's 5 in the first pack. And they're all based on, they're just human models of zombies that you fight in the game. Of like, you know, the random citizens. And then there's others, like Chuck is the one with like the red plaid shirt that you would find in the back alley of the Wild Thing scenario. That's the thing I always associate him with. He's also the same guy you would see in the Outbreak scenario in the owner's room. So he's also an Outbreak as well, and it's weird because I think both of these guys, Matthew and Chuck, they're the humans that you find, like the surviving characters that you find in the Outbreak scenario, where like, you know, they join you on the road with Dorian, and you know, you can talk to them both right out before Dorian shows up, or you leave with Dorian, and then you can talk with them again once you get off the police van and stuff. So it's weird to me that even though they use these models in game for like, you know, characters you can talk to, that they never actually use them for you know, as playable characters, despite having full stats. And we're gonna play as Chuck later on, I believe. And Derek, we're not gonna play as him, I don't think, but I don't know why he's not really listed. It's USS2. So I think Luke is the only Umbrella Security Service character that actually ended up surviving and being put in. Well, not surviving the game or anything, but actually being put in as a playable character in the Outbreak games, but I'm not 100% sure. There might be 1 or 2 more guys. Then there was a pre-mentioned Mickey, and this unused character was shown in a lot of pre-release screenshots. The images he's featured in have to do with perhaps one of the most famous cut Outbreak scenarios. The scenario doesn't have an official name and is usually referred to as a day in Raccoon after the motel the scenario is set in. Mickey was the owner of the motel. According to a Famitsu article that featured him and other characters, Mickey had a very hostile personality even towards his motel guests. As his actual remnants, he has a battle-damaged model, probably from being attacked or killed in the scenario, and a playable version, which is a gym-type character that starts with a hemostat in his inventory, which is just the stuff that cures, you know, bleeding in these games. Which would have been ironic because, like, I think they speculate they was either killed by William Birkin or they was killed by, you know, like a liquor. Man, this guy still isn't fucking dead. There we go. And that's pretty much about, that's pretty much what you can, about Mickey, though. Also, I guess his name is misspelled at times. It's supposed to be M-I-C-K-Y, but sometimes it's spelled as M-I-C-K-E-Y. Then there's quite a few George types. There's Gary, Gary B, Jake, and Keith. And this article needs some update in here, folks. Gary, I believe, I can't remember, he was supposed to be like on the boat level as well, and he was the guy who was manning the boat or something like that, and then it's hinted at in his second model, Gary B, which also starts in danger. He has like a gunshot wound on him, so it seems like maybe Nikolai or somebody got to him. And we usually go the down path, so we're going to head up here. We're going to do the top path this time. Then there's Jake and Keith. I honestly can't remember who Keith is. Probably like a random citizen or something like that. And then Jake, I think he has a unique model. I don't think he's based off of a zombie, but like nobody has any idea who he was meant to be or what he was supposed to do. He just is kind of like a guy in a suit and maybe a toupee. I think he looks like he has like gray hair. But maybe we'll play as him later. Now we're up to Mac here. In an old Famitsu article, his full name is mentioned as Mac Dowell, and that he was supposed to be a UBCS Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service mercenary that fell in love with a raccoon citizen named Mary. He's a George type character. He starts with a hemostat. And also worth noting, empty character slots that are set as playable have duplicates of Mac and them as a placeholder to prevent crashes when the data is force loaded. So yeah, it doesn't mention here about how him and Mary were supposed to reunite or anything like that, but I think that was what the idea was in the Streets of Raccoon. At least that's what I've heard on various things. Then there's Matt, who I believe is just another citizen of Raccoon City, and he's not to be confused with Matthew. Then there's another guy named Richard, who I think is just another Raccoon citizen who's got like a suit model.
Thanks.
Then there's two David types, which is Robert and Roger. Two Alyssa types, which are Kate and Laura. Laura is, we already mentioned Kate, and you'll see her later on as, you know, one of my partners. I think in like End of the Road or something like that. Maybe I play as her, I can't remember. But Laura, I believe, is, yeah, Laura is one of the female citizens in a suit. She's got the short hair. She's actually right there in the window. That's who Laura is. And all the female citizens have like a playable human model that, once again, full stats, fully playable, nothing that's missing from their character sets or like glitches that would make it to where they wouldn't, there's a reason why they wouldn't be playable. They're just, the designers just thought, alright, well, let's not put them in the game despite them being in the game. So these are the most confusing ones not to have, especially for file 2. Like, they have the male ones in file 1, so why not in a similar fashion to you know, file 2 having the female stick figures, since file 1 had the male stick figures. Why not have the female citizens and I didn't mean to do that. Why not have the female citizens pack in file 2 and then the data converter where you can play as them all later on and stuff like that in File 1. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me why these characters were unplayable. There's only one Yoko type in the data that goes unused, making the total number of Yoko type NPC characters 3. 4 in File 2 as Miss Colors are exclusive to that game. Then there's Amelia, who I believe is just another girl in the suit. She's got the long hair. She's the same one that has like the black suit and the glasses, and she was pulled into the ceiling in the Underbelly scenario by the you know, Gigabyte or whatever it was, in the women's bathroom, employee bathroom. I don't know if her model shows up in this level or not, but I'll have to point her out when we see her. And then there's two Cindy types. There's Ginger and Mary. Mary, we obviously just played as in the last level. And then, oh, well, geez, we're actually playing as Matt right here. Didn't realize that.
Thanks.
And what's interesting is, like, these characters are all listed at, like, the top of the data and the character slot stuff. So that's why I'm playing as, like, these ones in Outbreak File 1. Because they're, like, the first characters that are listed. So, like, even then, like I said, like, Mac is listed as, like, the default character in this stuff. Like, you know, if these characters can't load, that's who we, you know, that's who loads in as an unplayable NPC. So it's weird to me that these characters, of all of them, were the ones who ended up getting cut. And speaking of Cindy types, Ginger, this is the one right there. That's Ginger right there, who had like a human playable model.
Please help.
So it's just weird to me that they didn't have like a... God damn it, David, you dragged her along with me.
Please help. Help me.
So it's just weird to me that these characters, once again, they have human models, full stats, can't play as them though. And then there's some no-type characters. So the following characters are coded as playable, but it seems like their coding is incomplete. Of these four, only Lucy Mal appears in the game in File 2, though only as an NPC. These characters have default stats and are all very low as they lack stats of their own. If forced as playable via game enhancer code, they will either use the type of whatever character selected on the select screen. In other situations, more than likely, they would be forced to be a Kevin type, as Kevin's typing is the first in the code in the default. Also worth noting, these characters have no display name in their inventory, so everyone except Lucy has a tentative name. So there's Lucy Mallet. She's coded in the data as a playable character, however it is not known if she was ever meant to be playable or not. Pre-release screenshot shows her giving Mark an item as she is playable, and she is a part of the flashback scenario she normally isn't found in. She uses her prototype design in File 1, which considers of a pink... Considers... That's not me on that one, folks. That's the article. Which consists, is the proper thing, of a pink and blue horizontal striped shirt, as opposed to File 2's red and pink horizontal striped shirt, and pink pants, which appears to be the same color in both games.
What?
So yeah, there's...
Time to die.
One of the biggest, like, funny and joke things in the Outbreak series is that, like, she is a Kevin type. And, you know, there's, like, a screenshot of her aiming, like, Kevin's 45 auto at the screen. And, I don't know, that's just funny to me.
Come on.
There's Mr. Gray. It's not known why this character exists. He uses the same model as the Mr. Colors. It's possible he was used as a template for the other Mr. Colors at one point. Makes sense. UBCS-3. This is another UBCS mercenary, but he looks different. His appearance is similar to that of Carl and Dustin, but he has a combat helmet on his head in addition to a ski-like mask like Dustin and Carl have. NPC 1F. Not much is known about this NPC. He wears an outfit similar to Will, the bartender at Jay's bar in the Outbreak scenario. His front is completely covered in blood and he has blood coming from his mouth. His eyes are also glazed over like he's infected already. It may be possible that this is Jack, the owner of said bar. Due to his injured state, he was either meant to appear as a zombie or was meant to appear as a dying NPC that the player would find and talk to. 1F refers to the hex slot he occupies in the table for playable NPCs. Which, once again, it makes sense because that is one of the first character playable slots you see in the game. So I don't know, maybe at one point, if you played as like Cindy or something like that, and you entered the owner's room, you would have seen Jack walking around the corner or something like that as a zombie, and it would have made a lot more sense to have like this particular zombie model instead of, you know, Chuck on the roof or on the outside balcony or whatever. And like I said, I mean, they even said it could have been like, you know, you talk to him as he's dying or something like that, and maybe he would have had some special text for Cindy or something. I don't know, but it would have been pretty cool. And also another thing you can do is, like, these characters don't have playable stats. You can actually play as the zombie characters as well. Just to, you know, add the stats. So you can play as Zombie Will. You can play as, like, any of the zombie versions of the Citizens and stuff like that as well. And, you know, just give them proper stats and, you know, they're ready to go. Apparently there's some oddities here. Numerous odd things should be found within the game's data, or in some cases in actual gameplay. Model and character oddities. Some NPCs not used until File 2 have different models in the original game. Some of these oddities can be seen by unlocking said characters in File 2 and using File 2's data converter to unlock them on an Outbreak save file on the same memory card. LB has no infected patch of skin on his side. X-Man is known as Masked Man and lacks the muscles he has in File 2. Said he's scrawny like LB. Also like LB, he has no infected patch of skin on his side. Lastly, instead of being a Mark type character, he is a David type character instead. Lucy Mallet, if hacked via character modifier game start codes, has a blue and pink striped shirt rather than a red shirt with white horizontal lines. Yeah, we already went over that one. Windows display name in File 1 is Rinda. This translation mistake was fixed in File 2, but isn't corrected in File 1. Yeah, the L and R, I guess. There's always like an issue with L and R in Japanese language and stuff. There's some voice oddities. A few of the voices you hear in the purchase BGM you get in the collection menu are unusual. The other voices actually contain fragmented versions of the prototype title called for the US and Japanese names of Outbreak. Original Network, Biohazard, and Resident Evil Online title calls are present here, but the words have been separated into Network, Biohazard, Resident Evil, and Online respectively. The Network was repurposed for all versions of Outbreak and plays when the Network option is selected on the title screen. This can even be heard with the multiplayer service discontinued. The collection, there's even a BGM oddities. The collection menu's theme is actually listed as save. Obviously, with its peaceful tone, it was meant for the various save rooms the player can visit during scenarios originally. For whatever reason, be it how saving with typewriters is handled in this game, or whatever, it was instead moved to the collection menu. Yeah, one of the most annoying things that really pissed me off about File 2 is in the collection menu, there is no theme. Like, why not just carry over the theme, guys? Come on. That was so lame. That was such a good song, too. There's a whole bunch of scrapped high poly models and scrapped real-time cutscenes, which I can't really show off either. A massive number of enemies and creatures go unused in the data. Like most of the model data, the data is shared between both Outbreak games. Few of these enemies would end up getting used in File 2's elimination sub-games. Mainly variants of existing enemies such as zombie dogs, but a majority would remain unused. I wonder how many unused characters or enemies there are. And then finally we got some regional differences. The European version had online capabilities removed due to technical difficulties with having to work with multiple languages and different service providers. Version 1.0 of the US version has a nasty bug involving Alyssa in the Outbreak scenario. If Alyssa uses ab libs in the alleys behind the apartments, the game will freeze. This doesn't happen in the Japanese or European versions. It was fixed in version 1.1. Yep, I've definitely fallen victim to that glitch so many times, and it seemed like every time I did, it was where I got one of the rare, you know, events, like, you know, a crow breaking into the room, or, you know, a bottle breaking in the wine cellars, whatever, you know. So really screwed over with that kind of stuff. As with most Japanese Biohazard Resident Evil titles up until Revelations, voice acting was exclusively in English with Japanese subtitles. These subtitles are actually based off of the original script rather than what the actors are actually saying. As a result, some things in the subtitles are very different from how the script was translated for the voice acting studio. Interesting. Various file and objects found in the game had changes or translation errors made when translated to English. This was actually a common thing done in the RE games during localization and results in things ranging from character names getting translated with improper spelling or in some cases with files, completely new information added. Well, there is some more like very small tidbits of information on the Resident Evil wiki. That's pretty much it for this article on the Cutting Room 4. Like I said, I'm going to link these in the description below, and we're going to move on to, we're also going to have some more stuff with other Resident Evil games I played. So we're going to go with the Cutting Room 4 articles for Resident Evil, the original on the PlayStation, as well as we're going to look into Resident Evil 2, and we're probably going to look into 3 as well before we move on to to ways that I think Capcom could reintroduce Resident Evil Outbreak to the modern audience. But here we go. We're going to start off with Resident Evil 1 here. So even on this, I'm not going to go over it, but like I said, the articles are listed down below in the description if you want to check them out, and they have some sub pages here such as prototype info and pre-release info, unused backgrounds, many room differences, and then there's obviously like things that I can't show you, like pictures and sounds and stuff like that, like music and all that good stuff. So check all that stuff down if you want to, in the description down below if you want to see what all the stuff that the Cutting Room 4 has to offer on these games. So some unused content for Resident Evil 1 are the Dum Dum rounds and their alternate bullets for the Colt Python Magnum. Though the game describes them as more powerful, they actually do less damage than the standard Magnum rounds. They can only be used in the original game through hacking and were removed entirely for the director's cut version. They were usable in the January 31st, 1996 prototype. Well, in that version, regular Magnum rounds deal less damage than they do in the final. Interesting. So maybe it's just the original intention was that the Magnum was supposed to have 2 sets of bullets, and the Dum Dum rounds were essentially supposed to be specifically for bosses, I'm guessing. Flamethrower fuel. Much like in the sequel, fuel for the flamethrower is hidden in the game's coding but goes unused. I honestly thought they did have the flamethrower fuel, but I guess not. It is usable in the January 31st, 1996 prototype, and in that version, can be found in the underground area in Chris's scenario.
What?
Interesting. A pickaxe removed from the final game for unknown reasons. Interestingly, when attempting to use this item, a prompt will appear on screen giving you the choice of yes or no. Set of the default, this item cannot be used. Though nothing seems to happen with either choice.
Damn it.
It has a black inventory graphic but a full 3D model when examined. Then there's oil, an orange can of oil with a flame graphic on the front. Its intended use is unknown. I don't know, maybe you would have had to use oil to set the to start the fire with a lighter so you could get the map of the second floor. Comm radio. This item was given to the player in the storyline but never used in-game outside of cutscenes. Features a glitchy inventory graphic. I could have swore that like you could still look at the 3D model. Once again, I don't know, maybe this is just me misremembering stuff. That Mandela effect. Lockpick. An image of a makeshift lockpick can be found in the inventory graphics of the 1996 release. While Jill does receive a lockpick from Barry early on, it is never actually shown anywhere in the game. Once again, in the January 31st, 1996 prototype version, the lockpick is an actual inventory item using this icon. This system is reused in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. A similar design is used for Claire's lockpick in Resident Evil 2 and is visible in her status screen as a personal item from the beginning of the game. Yeah, they don't really explain Claire being able to use that so much. Like, I think the idea is that, like, Chris taught Claire all of her stuff as far as, survival goes. Like, he taught Claire how to use a knife, how to use weapons and stuff like that. But I mean, Chris was never the master of unlocking, so it's interesting that Claire ends up using the lockpick herself. Convenient though, and she really needed it because she's definitely the more difficult character to play as in Resident Evil 2.
Did you find it?
See here, there's some unused files. Trevor's letter / Eric's letter. The background image for a file that isn't found in game. It is, however, present in the rebirth mode of the Nintendo DS version of the game, Resident Evil Deadly Silence, in which the letter entitled Eric's Letter hints at the location of Doom Book 1 in this mode. Looking at the data of the trial edition of the game reveals that this image was originally intended to be one of the scrapped Trevor letters.
What?
Letter. The background image for an unknown file, presumably also meant for one of the scrapped Trevor letters or Spencer's invitation for Trevor. That would have been a cool one to have. Health status. A good health condition is present in the graphical file for the status screen. This condition is never used in game. Instead, both green and yellow status indicate fine. Interesting. I wonder why they didn't use it.
Excuse me. I mustn't give up.
There's some voice lines that were unused as well. Some build dates, which don't really mean too much, in my opinion. Fonts. File images. Boy, a lot of stuff that I can't really show off. There was some censorship here in the American version. Some of the more gruesome scenes in the intro were censored in the international versions. The Japanese version shows Chris smoking in the casserole and in one of the ending cutscenes. The FMV played when encountering the first zombie had a shot of Kenneth's head torn apart, dropping to the floor in the Japanese version. This was removed from the international versions. The Japanese version contains an alternative end credit cinematic where it shows the characters getting killed in various ways. To unlock it, you must finish the game a second time and get a good ending. And then there's, you know, like videos that show off the version differences and the censorship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the director's cut, which is a revised version of the game that was released in late 1997 to fill in for the postponed release of Resident Evil 2. The subtitle is a bit of a misnomer, since it doesn't really restore any missing content, such as the George Trevor files, which eventually were implemented into the Resident Evil 2002 remake. Nevertheless, it does show a slew of new content and notable changes from the original releases. All versions of the director's cut still contain some censored FMV, which differs depending on region. For further details, see the FMV differences section below, but essentially the only versions of director's cut that brought back any uncensored FMVs were the French and German releases for some reason. The Capcom opening logo video from the original was changed to the flashing cubes version that was used in their newer games at the time. That's the one that I always remember. The one that goes. Alright, that was a terrible impersonation, but
This is it.
it's the one with the green flashing cubes at the beginning. That was in Resident Evil 2 as well.
Oh my god.
In the Japanese version, the opening and ending songs featured in the original release have been replaced with instrumental music used in the international versions. The game now consists of 3 play modes: Standard, Training, and Advanced, also known as Arranged in the Japanese version. An easier version of Advanced mode can also be accessed by highlighting Advanced on the main menu and holding right, essentially serving as a 4th difficulty level. Advanced mode features new room / visuals / camera angles. Item and enemy placement have been altered. The strength of enemy characters have also been altered. The default handgun was changed from a regular Beretta to what appears to be a custom Beretta Inox,
Did you find?
which has a higher chance of a critical hit.
Hey.
The default outfits for Chris and Jill as well as Rebecca's were changed. Always irritated me that Barry's wasn't. But I did end up playing all 4 difficulty levels in my playthroughs on this channel if you want to check that out. The wardrobe room is now accessible without needing the special key.
Perhaps you'll
The
allow
room
me
itself
to
was
have
also completely redesigned, showing the outfit options available for both Jill and Chris on display.
it. Perhaps you'll allow me to have it.
Forrest Spire's corpse on the second floor balcony is reanimated into a zombie when the player checks his body. However, this does not happen in Jill's storyline if Barry is present. Checking the mirror on the first floor bathroom just as the player enters the room and before changing the camera angle will trigger a brief scene in which a zombie is reflected in the mirror coming out of the toilet alcove. This does not happen if the player goes straight where the zombie is located without checking the mirror first. A Colt Python with unlimited ammo replaces the special key as a reward for getting the best ending. While the original and beginner mode on the Japanese version's character select screen still features the difficulty level, it is not displayed in arranged mode. Standard mode restores the original Japanese difficulty to the international versions. Otherwise, all other regional differences still apply. A bonus disc was included that contains a trial version of Resident Evil 2. The Japanese version of the disc also contains a trial version of Mega Man Legends, as well as a video trailer of Breath of Fire 3. I've never even heard of Breath of Fire.
Help me!
Listen.
Please help! Please help!
Go!
Looks like that's about it, honestly.
Help me, please! Help!
Help me!
So let's argue it's about time we go to Resident Evil 2.
Help!
Alright, so we're going back in the unused content, and this time for Resident Evil 2. So let's look at some items. Resident Evil 2 has a lot of unused items that were left over during its development cycle, notably from a prototype version commonly known as Resident Evil 1.5. There's the unknown handgun. This green unknown handgun exists in the final game but doesn't seem to have any function and can't be used. It is likely used as a placeholder graphic for unfinished inventory avatars. The gun itself seems to be based on the SIG Pro S228. As the name of the weapon exists in an item list that is in the Japanese version of the Resident Evil 2 demo. This placeholder image is also in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which also has a usable weapon similar to this one. The SIG Pro SP-2009. There's flamethrower fuel. For an unknown reason, flamethrower fuel is unobtainable. It can be restored through hacking. I think that's in a lot of BioRand videos as well, in which you can get the flamethrower fuel. Spark shot ammo. Like the flamethrower fuel, the spark shot ammo went unused and unattainable, and it can be also restored via hacking. There's some chemicals. Both items, ID 24 and 25, were meant to be for Claire Redfield's scenario. Although unused, they are both functional and can be used with the help of cheat codes. Up to 6 grenade rounds can be converted into flame rounds by combining them with one chemical, or into acid rounds by using another chemical.
Stop it!
An early state of this mechanic exists in the demo versions of the game, but on top of that, in those versions it is also possible to combine both chemicals together, which results in recovery chemical, an item not present in the final. Interesting. So I think they actually did kind of reuse some of that for Resident Evil remake, the second game remake, because I do remember you can combine certain ammos or something like that.
Oh my god.
I can't remember the exact mechanic of it though. A similar mechanic will be later used in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, in which it is possible to combine various types of gunpowder with grenade rounds to convert them into acid, flame, and freeze rounds. Note that chemical is also in the data of the game unused.
We have to go!
There's the Coleco M950 pistol. This Coleco M950 is unusable in the original version of the game and in some of the re-releases by using external cheat codes. So it is usable.
Help!
The above footage, yeah. The weapon is usable by giving the Colt SSA to Leon, hinting that it was likely an actual weapon for Leon since Claire obtains the Colt SSA in the locker with her extra costume. The weapon is unfinished. The firing animation is the same as Leon's handgun. It makes the same sound as the Colt SSA, and it does not damage enemies. Interesting. A fan-made mod for the PC version can make it usable in a finished state. It would also have used 9mm handgun ammunition with a 50 or 100 rounds capacity. The weapon is also in the demo, and which is where these two inventory images were taken from, as they did not survive for the final version. The only differences being that it makes no sound and that it has infinite ammunition, further hinting at the weapon being intended as a bonus weapon. The ID number of the item in those versions corresponds to that of the Colt SAA in the final. Presumably the Colt SAA replaced the Calico M950, as there is no evidence of the Colt SAA existing in the prototype versions either. The H&K MC51 machine gun. These two images exist in the final game but are unused. While hacking the weapon back into the game using external cheat codes as possible, it crashes the game when equipping it, as the model for the weapon no longer exists. The weapon would have used 2 inventory slots. Mods for the PC version allow for it to be usable. The weapon can be seen in Resident Evil 1.5 prototype version and still exists in some form in the final version, as it is used by Umbrella's Secret Service in the cutscene in which they retrieved the virus from William Birkin. It was likely replaced by the game's actual submachine gun, the MAC-11, which would explain why that weapon can be retrieved from the corpses of one of the Umbrella Security Service members in the Laboratory B4 culture room. Boy, that was a lot to say.
This must be it. Thank you so much.
Come on!
And other than that, there's some version differences. So the ranking order in the Japanese version is S, A, B, C, and D, with the highest rank being an S. In the international versions, the ranking order is A, B, C, D, and E, with A being the equivalent to the Japanese S ranking. However, the mention of the S rank was still left in the international manuals, which led to some confusion. The European versions remove the references to the made-up soda brand in the backgrounds, making it the first versions to do that before the DualShock release. The French, German, Italian, and Spanish versions are all missing the text that is supposed to show up before gameplay starts. Not sure what that means exactly. Oh, I see. They were powered by an unescapable destiny. This is just the beginning of the worst nightmare. Instead, there's just a really long black screen. The text is present in the European English version. So they probably just didn't feel like translating that specific line. Just figured, alright, well, it's a loading screen anyway. They expect it.
Here! Uh-huh.
And let's go into Resident Evil 3 then. Finish this up here.
What's wrong?
And all 3 of these games have prototype information as well, so check that out yourself if you're interested. Link this in the description below.
Help!
I mustn't give up.
Alright, so starting off we have Tofu. Originally a hidden character in Resident Evil 2, Tofu's model was included in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis but goes unused. In comparison with Tofu from Resident Evil 2, the texture for the model differs and his hands, voice, and perspiration are missing. It may have been used by the developers for testing the collision detection as it was in the previous game, and can't be accessed with the GameShark code. There's some unused graphics, including some backgrounds. From the warehouse at the start of the game, in hard mode, the player can retrieve handgun bullets from this compartment, but even the first screen is unused, as when checking the compartment, the game switches directly to the inventory screen. Note that the part above the caution sign differs between the 2 backgrounds.
Yeah.
An unused camera angle from one of the early streets, and it can be seen in action in some pre-release material.
Find anything?
Let's see here, I'm trying to find some stuff that isn't the backgrounds here.
Thanks.
Alright, so there are once again some unused items, and that's just gonna probably be the end of this of our cut content stuff here, because a lot of it is just also version differences for some reason. But I mean, that's probably just something else that the cutting room 4 specializes in, not just cut content, but version differences. So there's demon coins that went unused. These 3 coins are unused in-game and their use is unknown. They all depict a demon of some sort. They are possibly an early version of the amber, obsidian, and crystal balls, as the number of items and their colors do match. There's a broken fire hose and adapter. Well, the fire hose is used in-game. It was more likely that it would have been found somewhere else, broken, as the end adapter is missing from it, and the player has had to likely find this piece and combine it into the final fire hose that is used in-game. Reason for this decision is unknown, but likely to lessen the amount of backtracking in-game to find the items. If hacked into the game, the items can be combined into the fire hose and be used as normal. The broken fire hose can be used on the fire hydrant in the alleyway, where the fire is blocking access to the sales office, so it displays non-message when used, and does nothing. It is possible that this was a placeholder message to be added before it was decided to scrap the idea of finding the adapter for the broken fire hose and allow the player to obtain the already completed one in the final game.
I was thinking.
Remote control and batteries. The remote control is used in the final game at the sales office, but was likely originally to be an item. The player likely had to find and replace the missing batteries for it to be used like in the final game. When hacked into the game, the remote without the batteries can be combined with the batteries and be made into the normal remote control, but has no function whatsoever. Giga Oil. The function of this item is unknown. Maybe it was something that sets something on fire or whatever to clear a path. Well, it is easy to assume that the Giga Oil is an earlier version of the mixed oil found at the gas station and can be used on the tramway. This texture hints at otherwise. The texture for 3D models can be found in the data pertaining to the dining room of the clock tower, so the item was meant to be seen in the room, either as a pickup item or used possibly to light a fire in the fireplace, which is unused. Chain. The chain was likely to be used for a puzzle, but no information can be found on what it does. Although a texture for it can be found in room 121, it was found in the warehouse as shown in this background that was not used in the final game. It is the box that holds handgun bullets in hard mode. Chemical. This is one of the few items that isn't labeled as BOTU. Its inventory graphic has an HH next to the image, which its meaning is unknown. It's labeled as Game Instruction A and has no description when examined. This item is also unused in RE2, which is called Chemical FRW09, which can be combined with grenade rounds to convert them into flame rounds. Therefore, it may be an early version of the gunpowder, although attempting to combine it with grenade rounds or gunpowder gives no result in this game. Keyring. This item does not have an inventory graphic, and when it is used in the inventory, it cannot be moved to the item box. Its use is unknown and was likely used at the latter half of the game after the clock tower. Dummy key, also known as developer's key. This is the only other item that isn't labeled as BOTU in both versions, being called the key for development. The item has an actual description in the Japanese version, whereas in the English it simply says dummy. Interesting. There's also some early costumes as far as Jill goes too that you can look at for the textures. Some different epilogues for the characters, some censoring of course.
Come on!
And that's about all for this. Like I said, there's so much more. If you were to check this out yourself, you can look at the images, the unused voice files, prototype info, and all that ooey gooey stuff. So, if, like I said, I mean, I know I said it like 5-6 times. If you're interested in this stuff, check the description below. That is where you'll be able to find more of it. And you'll be able to probably understand it a lot better reading it yourself than listening to me and stumble over my words trying to share this stuff with you guys.
Jesus. Thanks.
But that said,
Excellent.
we're going to move on to the next part of our video here, and that's going to be ways that I think that the Outbreak series could be reintroduced to modern audiences.
May I have it pretty? This is
So the first one would be, I think the simplest one, that a lot of people have been asking for as well is an HD remaster, you know, with HD visuals and with online support once again of File 1 and 2 combined into one game. I don't think that would be the worst idea. That said, I'm not sure. It's not likely to ever happen, unfortunately. It just isn't.
Anything?
I don't know. Maybe I would give it like a 30% chance of it ever happening. Even then, that's probably pretty high. I think if Outbreak were to come back in any way, shape, or form, I think it'd be kind of like a modern remake in the style of you know, the current Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 9, remakes for RE2, 3, and 4, and stuff like that. Some people, a lot of people for the longest time want them to release File 3. And File 3 wouldn't be the same though due to just the passage of time. I mean, obviously they've completely moved on to a completely different direction. It's not the same game. They're not going to just make a PS2 game in the modern times or whatever. And, you know, it would have been really cool to have like those cut scenarios I was talking about, you know, a day in Raccoon in the motel, you know, the boat one with Clint and Gary and stuff like that. Would have been really cool if we could have had, you know, the streets of Raccoon. And it really seemed like when Resident Evil Outbreak was first coming out, there was a cohesive story, just from what you can gather from like the cut scenarios themselves. And it's just sad to see that they cut so much of that in and of itself that you know, we don't get it anymore. You know, it's just kind of like chapter after chapter after chapter that isn't really connected to one another. And even in this game, you can kind of see it with the opening cutscenes, like hints at like, okay, maybe they were running from this spot, maybe they hadn't reached these areas yet. You know, like, it's so weird to me. Like, they pass they pass the hotel, Apple Inn, and Hellfire that you know, is used in Hellfire, but they don't when it comes. But they let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. I'm really tired, guys. If I'm being honest, when I'm recording this video, it's so weird to me that in Outbreak, the original scenario, they pass by the Apple Inn, and then they circle back around to the Apple Inn in the Hellfire scenario. And I don't know, I think there's a lot of people are saying that there's speculation that the Streets of Raccoon unused scenario would have led directly to you know, the Hellfire scenario, and that's why they're just kind of running on the streets and stuff like that until they eventually make it the Apple Inn. Whether that's the case or not, I mean, that's just 100% full speculation, but it does seem to kind of make sense. But I don't know, I would have loved to see those canceled scenarios come back. And you know, File 3, I mean, I would not have complained about having more Resident Evil Outbreak games. And you know, it would have been kind of nice to have, you know, one final thing for the stories and whatnot. Having hopefully it would have been cool to have all those unused NPCs be playable and given one last chance to shine. And maybe they could have even given us a special treat of having those characters, you know, could have given us like Claire and Chris and Jill and Barry and stuff like that as special bonus characters or something like that in File 3. But, I mean, even if they did do that in File 3, they wouldn't be playable in File 1 or 2, so maybe that's also another reason why they didn't have File 3, really, because the amount of characters they would have included just wouldn't... So many of them, like, probably wouldn't be able to be playable in File 1 and 2. It's just my guess, unless if they just kind of didn't really have too many extra NPCs playable, but there is probably like 10 to 20 unplayable NPCs, you know, that I'm showing off in this video, so maybe that wouldn't have been much of an issue. But I think the best in my opinion, that they could do for this would be to just make a modern Resident Evil Outbreak using, you know, the modern engines of Resident Evil, like I said, Resident Evil 7, 8, the remakes and stuff like that. And, you know, make it like a, I wouldn't say a completely new concept, but just make it like a team mode. Just like how it would be like, you know, this game, you know, and like Resident Evil 2 and stuff. And, you know, create the unique scenarios. Maybe you reuse and retool those ideas that they had for File 3 and make them in this game, you know. I think that'd be really cool. But with this one, it would also have to be, I feel like, just, you know, full-on big scenarios. It would be very tough because even these ones are really quick once you know what you're doing, and that was kind of like a big part of the charm of the original Outbreak, was it was a lot more difficult than the original games, far more difficult. But you had 4 people, you know, ideally, you know, if you were playing online, you had like 4 people trying to put their heads together to figure out what they gotta do and this or that and work together. So, I mean, to create something like that, it would just be a very, very, very difficult thing. Probably one of the most difficult things that Capcom could even hope to do. It works, I think, in Resident Evil Outbreak, and especially in the first game, there's a lot of levels that like split half and half, so it could be like 2 people on one area, 2 people on the next, like in Hellfire, or you know, below freezing point and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, it just, I don't know how well it would work for today. And, you know, obviously, you know, this game is also known for its multiple endings in a lot of scenarios. So, I mean, like, Decisions has like 4 endings. Actually, I think like 8 if you count all the paired endings. And then, yeah, 4 more, I think, if you count all of those, all the different type of endings. There's the bad ending where you turn into a zombie, and all 8 characters have that one with their own monologues. There's the, you know, the best ending that everybody gets, in which, you know, they cure themselves of the virus, and they, of course, you know, bring an extra one along with them, so that way they can help, you know, spread the cure and stuff like that. Then there's the ending where you cure yourself, but like,
Thank you.
then you end up not getting another extra sample. So yeah, you cured yourself, but you feel like an asshole because you didn't get an extra sample, and now a whole bunch of other people are fucked.
Go now.
So even just in decisions, you can tell, you know, there's like so many different variants of the endings. There's, depending on what character you use in certain scenarios, there's also the ability to have extra cutscenes or extra items or event checklists and stuff like that. And the event checklist is another thing. You know, there's multiple different ways you can do scenarios in certain scenarios. There's some that have like an Outbreak luck-based scenarios in which, you know, like, will the crow fly in through the window? Will a bottle fall from the ceiling in the liquor room? Will a bottle fall over in the wine room? Stuff like that. And I don't know, I feel like
Here's what I'm.
it's possible. I mean, I think you can see the care they put in the Resident Evil 4 remake,
Good.
and seeing how much they were able to achieve and you know, bring back from the PS2 era as much as they could in that remake. It's just that it's just a very tough thing to do, especially with the Outbreak series, because, you know, as much of a big a fan as I am of the Outbreak games, a big part of the community doesn't just, you know, not know about them. There's a big part of the community that just doesn't like these games. So the same amount of effort might just not be there. You know, it might be, and especially in the days, you know, we are now, where, you know, there's a whole bunch of updates all the time in games and expected and stuff like that. We know there's going to be the people, you know, a whole bunch of people that are going to, you know, if they came out with 5 scenarios, right, which isn't going to happen. Like, it'd be like 3, just because of how modern games are, especially with those games where they want you to keep playing. So they give you like a teeny bit of the game at first, and then they eventually build on it if people are actually playing it, whether there's content or not.
Did you meet anyone?
So
Have you made any progress?
It'd just be a tough sell, I think, and that's probably why it hasn't happened yet. But, you know, ideally you'd want to have, you know, a good amount of scenarios. I mean, if he can match 5 with the first Resident Evil Outbreak, then I think that would be good. Obviously, there's also, like I mentioned, all the event checklists and stuff like that, and that probably wouldn't be a route that they would go for, I imagine. It would probably just be like, you know, something else, like something team-based, like how fast can you beat it, you know, and, you know, memorization, speed running is probably what they would focus on the most, which also is something that's included in, you know, Resident Evil Outbreak, the original games that we're playing here, obviously, because, you know, you can see all the, stats and stuff like that at the end screen. I just feel like there wouldn't be too much. I feel like if they were to remake the Outbreak games, it'd be kind of like a Resident Evil 3 remake thing. I think they could make a really good game based off the concept, but I just don't think there would be something that would satisfy fans if they completely remade it. But I could be wrong, you know, it could be even a better experience because Capcom they knew they had a winning concept at this time. And maybe they want, you know, someday they're going to redo it again after giving up all these failed half-ass attempts to have like an online multiplayer game. Maybe now is the time they're finally going, you know, someday they're going to finally release Outbreak and stuff like that. Maybe, who knows, maybe with Resident Evil 9 coming out and Alyssa being mentioned again, maybe that's a small little thing saying, hey, we know Outbreak's there, we're going to come out with something eventually. You know, maybe that's the game that everybody is, you know, speculating on that might get remade one of these days, you know. Might be the next game that gets remade, you never know. And maybe they will put all the effort forward. Another thing that I just don't see them doing is I really just don't see them having all these different playable characters with different stats like they have in Resident Evil Outbreak. Or like in these games, I should say. There's not really too much reason not to, but even if they do, it's going to only be about like half the amount, you know, because of the character models and resources they would have to have, you know, and I don't know, it might be like a Resistance style thing in which like you would think that it would be a no-brainer to give us all the characters we would want to play as, but instead you give us like weird-ass characters that apparently were a part of like Chris's team in Resident Evil 7 or 8 or something like that. I forget, I haven't played those games, but apparently there's just like a bunch of dudes, generic looking dudes with you know, generic call names and stuff like that, and that would fit the vibe of the series, don't get me wrong. I mean, hell, in these games, in the original Outbreak, people didn't even have names. Like the Raccoon Citizens, they were just called Man 1, Man 2, Man 3, Man 4, Man 5, Man 9 for some reason. Cop 1, Cop 2, you know, Researcher 1, you know, stuff like that. So it's just, if they were to do something like that, though, hopefully they'd actually, you know, let you play as characters that you would want to play as in the game, not just random people that are not really needed to be included, like, you know, new characters and stuff like that. And I honestly wouldn't even be complaining if instead of using, you know, bringing back all the old characters from the Outbreak series, they just reused all the characters from, I think it was Resistance, was like the Dead by Daylight game. Because they're pretty much like very similar in the sense, you know. And I don't know, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter too much, but like I've always liked the idea of putting things to rest. So it's kind of like, you know, I would like to see characters like Claire, Jill, Chris, Leon, you know. I know they're the characters that build the foundation of the series, but I think it kind of worked a little bit with Resident Evil 7 and 8, and it showed that like characters like Ethan could take a mainstream role and be, you know, part of the Resident Evil canon, and people like them and appreciate them and stuff like that. And they're trying something new with this, you know, the daughter of Alyssa, and they still have Rose in the you know, in the background that they could also return to as well. So I think it would be nice if instead of killing them off like they did seemingly Alyssa, it would be nice if, you know, just to hear like, hey, this is the Resident Evil Outbreak characters, you know. I'd really hate it if like there's just some list that like Alyssa's daughter finds and it's just all the Resident Evil Outbreak characters crossed out or something, like a list by Umbrella. I think I already mentioned that in the video. That would be so lame. But it would be really cool if you know, like we just got some sort of confirmation that these people will just kind of live their lives out, and you know, same with Claire and Leon and stuff like that. You know, have one final big hoorah, you know, type title. You know,
Excuse me.
with like, you know, the majority of the older characters in there, and just kind of finish off their stories. I mean, they're like 50, and I guess they could get around to using like characters like Jill and Rebecca again, since apparently I think like due to the virus, they just being infected with the virus, they just don't age as much. So like having Sherry, Jill, Rebecca and stuff like that coming back. I mean, if they have a lore reason, then sure, why the hell not keep them around? But some of them I'd like them to just kind of put to rest and just, you know, just have them for remakes or something like that again, or you know, just show that these characters are alright and they're just kind of living lives, you know, after trying to do the best they can and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I know that sounds weird, but I'm like that. I'm just that kind of guy, you know. I want to see these characters actually live in peace for once. I always kind of wondered what the original Resident Evil 7 was going to be like after Resident Evil 6, but we're getting too off topic anyway, so we're going to circle back to how Resident Evil Outbreak, I think, would work in the modern times. And this is the most realistic version that I'm kind of guessing. That if we were actually to get a Resident Evil Outbreak in the modern times, I think that, you know, we would get a lot of reused assets, especially at first. And I don't think that would be a bad thing. So let's say, you know, we have like 6 main characters, you know, like the Leons, the Claires, the Chris, the Jills, you know, those kind of characters. They're like the main 6 characters or something. I'm putting 6 out there because, you know, like I said, there's always going to just be less than the originals, and that's just how these things work, right? And then you get these characters in as like an online Resident Evil survival horror, you know, thing to get the concept off the ground, right? Instead of the original Resident Evil Outbreak characters, because they have name recognition, you know? And then maybe later on, you know, you add in Alyssa and Kevin and all the Outbreak characters as the game gets more popular, and you know, the characters are referenced more and stuff like that, and you know, you already have all the popular characters anyway, so you add in, you know, Mark and Yoko and stuff like that. It's just bonus characters over time, or you know, maybe I don't like it or the idea, but maybe just as something like to, you know, kind of like Dead by Daylight, in which you buy the characters and stuff like that. You would in the same way Resident Evil Outbreak would. You know, this new reused asset version, right? Because let's be honest, there's no in-game points to buy everything anymore. That's not going to be a thing. And if it is, it's going to be for like very meaningless things. I doubt it would even be used for like skins. They'd probably come up with some stupid thing like charms, or, you know, keychains, kind of like Dead by Daylight. You know what I mean? In which it's just something to kind of like, something stupid and meaningless in the overall presentation to kind of get people to not have to, you know, be like, hey, well, I got all these points, why can't I use them to buy outfits and characters and stuff like that? You know what I mean? But, you know, it would be really cool if we had, you know, if, you know, God willing, you know, the gods of Capcom were willing enough, you know, to allow us to, you know, it would be really awesome if we could just earn points like you do in this game to buy the characters and outfits. But, I don't know, I just do not foresee that happening if they were to make a modern Resident Evil Outbreak. But, I don't know, if they ever do, Capcom, prove me wrong, please. I would not be complaining. But, I don't know, let's say they have, you know, 6 characters and they just, you know, have 6 classes, right? So Jill obviously would be the master of unlocking, like the Alyssa type character, and then you can have, you know, Alyssa be like one of the characters you can unlock and use her as a skin and stuff like that, since she was the original Resident Evil Outbreak master of unlocking, right? Once again, you know, I'm thinking name recognition to get people tied, you know, the normies tied into the Resident Evil Outbreak series, you know? make it to where it's not necessarily. I think a non-canon scenario would be the best too, or maybe it's just like the characters going on missions where they fight the. What the hell? Did I really just miss that? God damn it. Alright, I don't even know if I can win this now, but back to what I was saying, you know, get people hooked in on this through the name recognition of the characters. You know, maybe it's just like I think it'd be cool if, like, instead of Outbreak's concept of, you know, the survivors trying to, you know, survive due to, you know, just being normal citizens in the Raccoon City destruction incident. I think it'd be awesome if, like, it was a new city, and all the BSAA was all sent in and stuff like that, or if it was, you know, the main cast going to another area to stop another crazy maniac, and they had scenarios and levels and all this other sort of stuff. You know what I mean? But that's probably just me on that one, you know. And I think if they did have that idea, you know, it might be original enough for Capcom to kind of green with the idea as well. But that's just me. But there's a Master of Unlocking class I think would be cool. You know, characters like Jill and Alyssa, and maybe even Claire, because she has the lockpick in Resident Evil 2. I think that would kind of work well. Then, of course, you know, you could also have another class would be like the Brute class, similar to Mark, but, you know, like have, you know, like Chris in that role, Barry in that role. You know, they have a powerful starting handgun, and, you know, they're the powerhouses of the group. You know, Chris would have to be in there, because, I mean, he punched a goddamn boulder, dude. Come on. How could he not be? Another one could be a marksman. Speaking of Hunk, here's Hunk B. He could be a part of the marksman class. Also, Leon could be a part of the marksman class. I think that'd be pretty cool. You can make an argument for Chris, too, because he was, like, I think, supposed to be the main marksman and stuff like that. And I kind of think of it in the same role as, like, Kevin, right? You know, just an all-around good character, and, you know, they have, like, maybe some special thing with their guns, where, you know, they have better aiming or something like that. Small details to set these characters apart, you know what I mean? So that's 3 classes right there. Then there'd be the healing class, which would be like the Cindy or the Rebecca Chambers class, in which, you know, she can heal other people, and maybe she can create, you know, like, mix herbs and heal people directly, like Cindy does in this. And maybe she can even also, with certain chemicals, Rebecca could make first aid sprays or special poison clearing sprays or something like that if they needed to, you know? If for whatever reason they just didn't want to use blue herbs. Maybe they can even bring the yellow herbs back from Resident Evil 4 and have her be, like, the only one who can use those herbs. Kind of like be like a mix of George and, you know, Cindy. I think that would be pretty cool. Let's see here. Then there'd be Ada, and I don't know, I mean, I'm sure she could have, like, some sort of special spy class or something like that, in which, you know, she's very resourceful. Maybe something similar to David, but not something more unique, I think, other than just being able to make weapons out of nothing or whatever. You know, maybe she could have, like, special bombs that only she has that she can plant in certain areas. Maybe she can have some special ability of maybe, like, being able to destroy certain electrical units like she does in Resident Evil 2 Remake, so she can get into specific areas that other characters can't, and maybe she can unlock certain doors from the outside, or maybe she can help other, just get into secret areas, kind of like how Jim does in the tunnels of Underbelly, in which he can get to, like, the special storage room and all that sort of stuff.
Thank you.
Just small things like that I think would be able to help Ada stand out a lot more. And, you know, spy class could be something really cool, I think, if they... Capcom could really probably expand the concept better than I ever could. But, I think that's 5 classes now, so... Let's see here, maybe they could have, like, a luck class or something like that, just like they did with Jim. I think that's kind of one of the lamer classes. And then, I mean... I don't know, they would probably have to have, like, a Yoko class too. I don't know who would be, like, the character that would be, you know, like a glass, you know, that wouldn't, you know, you'd have to kind of protect, because, you know, they wouldn't be able to, like, take very many hits. But you know, they were able to carry a bunch of stuff around. You know, the storage box, essentially. Maybe that could be Sherry or something like that, you know, the inventory person. But it would be just really cool to have so many of these characters come back. It'd be a nice opportunity to have other protagonists that would never really come back in any other capacity come back and you know, in this modern Re Outbreak. Maybe you could have Jake Mueller. You could have Piers come back. Helena Harper from Resident Evil 6. You could have Carlos come back. You could have you know, just Ashley Graham even. I think she'd be pretty good actually as like the inventory management character now that I think about it. Just, you know, she has like a backpack or something like that, and you know, you have to kind of, she's not very strong though, so you have to like look after her and stuff like that. I think personally, I just think there would be a lot of really cool concepts with those kind of character classes and stuff like that, but that's just me personally. And like I said, you know, the name recognition of the characters is what's really sets them apart from everything else, in my opinion. To get players hooked in because of the familiarity of the characters, and I think they could also reuse assets. So, you know, once again, if it's a non-canon experience, just reuse the areas that we've already seen in the remakes and Resident Evil 7, 8, and 9. You know, use the RPD as like one of them. You know, in which there's a special scenario that you have to work through in a team with that. Maybe have multiple outcomes. Maybe you know, you unlock certain characters. You know, all the characters that you could also unlock from the bonus are not just the characters from the Outbreak series, but it could be, you know, the extra playable characters. There's a Hunk model. Why wouldn't he be able to be, you know, an unlockable character in a modern Resident Evil Outbreak? Right the wrong from this game that they didn't ever have him playable, despite the fact that he's fully playable, as you can see here. Some more that they could have, you know, there's just the extra characters from like the Resident Evil remakes. So, for example, Tyrell, Carlos from Resident Evil 3 remake that could be there. Brian Irons, Ben Bertolucci, Marvin. I think a lot of people would like to play as Marvin in the modern day. Brad, even Dr. Nathaniel Bard from Resident Evil 3 remake would be cool just to include because the model is there and stuff like that. And, you know, they could all fill the pre-existing classes, or maybe they can make a new one, you know? A new kind of character classes for these people if they really want to, you know, try and add more to the game other than just these NPCs and stuff like that. You know, maybe by the end of it they could have 10 different classes or 12 or something like that. That'd be pretty awesome, and have like 50 plus playable characters. Which, you know, once again, we're dreaming here, but like I'm kind of thinking the idea in the vein of reusing all this content anyway, you know what I mean? And maybe they could even just, in reusing content, they can just reuse old areas as well from like Resident Evil 5 and 6 and just remodel them for, you know, the modern RE engine. But you could have, you know, a hospital scenario, a RPD scenario. You could have the, I can't remember their freaking names now, but like the same setting, the Baker household from Resident Evil 7 would be great, I think. And, you know, you could reuse all the enemies and stuff like that from those previous games in these scenarios, and it would make sense. You know, essentially it could start out as a, you know, what if there was a big team in these settings type deal, and, you know, they adjust the difficulty and, you know, the story accordingly because of it. Rather, you know, just what if scenarios maybe could also work. And then from there you add in, you know, unique settings, like maybe the Raccoon Zoo could be one, for example. That would be crazy if they had like these zoo animals all in a modern setting. That'd be absolutely wild if they had those things running around. You get what I mean? Or like I said, they could just have it where it's an original story and they create original areas for this story, you know what I mean? You know, and it could, once again, right the wrong of the outbreaks that we have now, where there's a all-encompassing story. It's just, you know, broken down into 5 scenarios. Kind of like honestly, you know, Resident Evil 6. Well, 5. Well, I should say 4, 5, and 6, in which they have, you know, all those chapters. You know, 5 chapters in each character's campaigns. But instead of it being a co-op adventure, it could be a 4-man adventure, and you know, it would be awesome if like maybe there was some extra chapters. You know, maybe it starts out at chapter 1. And then depending on how that ends, it could be go to chapter 1A or 2A or chapter 2B. You know what I mean? And then from there, it just kind of branches off. I think that would be really awesome because it would have so much more replayability and stuff like that for the titles. But once again, that would also require a lot of resources and effort and money put into it that I just don't think they would ever put in for a modern Resident Evil Outbreak. It's too bad that they didn't give it another chance in like the PS3 era, because that probably would have been the best shot that they had, in my opinion. But I don't know. That's how I think that the modern Resident Evil Outbreak could work in a modern setting, like I said. You know, on like PS5 consoles or something like that. I would love to hear what you guys think about these ideas and whether or not you think that Resident Evil Outbreak could survive in a modern setting, and if you have any ideas on how you think it would work yourselves, and you know, maybe a realistic way or maybe a dreamlike way, you know, share it all. But that's about all my say on the subject here, at least in my regards personally there. Boy, there was some frame rate issues here every once in a while.
Oh, yes. Excuse me.
Yeah, I've been a fan of this series. It was the first Resident Evil games I ever actually played. Was the Resident Evil Outbreak series, File 2 in particular.
Excuse me.
And
Help me.
I'm glad that you had like the 4 scenarios at the beginning of the game, because
Help me.
when I was a kid, I could not get past any of these levels whatsoever. I actually had to look up walkthroughs when I was like 10 years old to finally, you know, beat them and whatnot. But man, it was they're definitely the hardest games in the entire series, in my opinion, I would argue. Now we got the full crew. Of course, he's just coming up and trying to hand me something. That's classic Resident Evil Outbreak move right there, right in the middle of a fierce battle. But yeah, I mean, I started this series when I was freaking 7 years old, I think. And the reason why is because it felt so approachable to me. It's definitely one of the least scariest Resident Evil games, in my opinion. Like, there's some times where it can get pretty freaky at times and unsettling, but you know, even if you compare it to the PS1 games, the Outbreak series isn't the scariest here, you know what I mean? But that's what I found. You know, I thought it was very approachable, and I just loved running around killing zombies on, you know, easy mode with all the ammo they give you and stuff like that, and clearing out all the hallways and stuff. But like, for example, I was too stupid to even know to just use this friggin' key on this door to get into the back here, despite doing the freaking tutorial level like of quite a few times. Man, this guy's not going down. Man, he's still alive? Man, I feel like the guys that like just shoot like 50 bullets into the zombies in the cutscenes and then just have to die, like that guy who was on the rooftops in Resident Evil 2. But I remember this game was actually my sister's game all the way back in the day. I never even seen her play it. I just seen that she had it at one point, and I was just very curious about it, and I gave it a shot. And you know, I had even more fun with it when I figured out how to actually complete the levels and, you know, replaying all of them. I loved the whole concept. I love looking at the concept art and the pictures. I think Mortal Kombat did it best, like with Deception and Armageddon and Deadly Alliance, where it actually explained what the concept art was all about and what the ideas and stuff were. This game, they have a few like pictures that actually explain the lore of the locales, which I think is really cool. But I loved, you know, unlocking all the extra characters. Since it was my first one, I didn't care that there was no Leon or Claire or Chris or Jill, you know, the ones I mentioned earlier and stuff like that, even though I knew from watching my siblings, you know, playing Resident Evil growing up, that they were the main characters and stuff like that. But yeah, even like growing up, like that's actually like the first, you know, obviously it's common now to watch people play video games and stuff like that. I mean, that's what you're doing right now, watching this video. But you know, for me back in the day, I would love to watch, you know, my brother play his games, especially, you know, the Resident Evil titles, because to me it was literally like a, you know, a cinematic experience, you know, that we were kind of enjoying together and stuff like that. And I thought that I was like one of the, you know, at growing up, I thought I was, you know, alone in that kind of thought process. And, you know, eventually, once again, I did get, you know, the courage to eventually play those games myself. You know, Outbreak is what really started it for me in elementary school, and then I finally got the courage in middle school, near the end of 6th grade, I believe, to start Resident Evil 2. And then it just kind of went from there with my love with the Resident Evil series. So File 2 is probably still my favorite Resident Evil game, if I'm being honest, by a wide margin. And it's not just, you know, the nostalgia aspect, it's still just a game that I think holds up incredibly well, and it's just too bad we never got like a File 3 or anything like that to kind of capitalize once again on File 2. And like the mechanics that introduced, like being able to walk and move and aim all at the same time, you know. The only thing I would argue that they took out that I didn't like from the first game, I liked in the first game how zombies also had a unique walking up the stairs animations, where in this game it's clearly that's not really a thing that they have. And not only because I think it's just fair that you know, you're not walking up, that, you know, you should be able to walk up the stairs around the same pace as the zombies if you think about it. But also, like, I remember them walking up the stairs in the Outbreak scenario in File 1, and that was some freaky shit, to be honest. That's probably like, I don't know, it's just so weird and unsettling and unnatural watching the zombies walk up the stairs. It's a little bit comical when you kind of think about it, like the logistics of like how you would think like a zombie shouldn't be able to understand how stairs work and be able to walk up them. But that said, it was always kind of like very unsettling to me when they were walking up the steps and stuff like that, and you know, the stairwell to the roof and Outbreak scenario and stuff like that. I think it carried over into like Hive and stuff like that, but it may have been, now that I think about it, I think the only scenario in which they did, oh shit, god damn it, I was trying to go for a no damage run here. But yeah, I think the only stairs that they work like that in, though, is the Outbreak scenario in the first game. So maybe I'm wrong in that regard. I don't really know. And I even, like a few years ago, it was before I started to move everywhere and stuff like that, I after playing these games for years, and I mean years, obviously I said, you know, I mentioned that I started playing these in elementary. It wasn't until probably 5 years ago, maybe not even, where I actually finally got the courage to just say, alright, screw it. I want to, you know, see everything that this game holds. You know, it was during a time when, before I started getting into emulation, I wanted to like finish all my PS2 games, and, you know, have just 100% completion of, you know, my favorite games on the memory cards that I had and stuff like that. And Outbreak File 1 and 2 were a part of that. And so it wasn't until recently that I finally just kind of said, screw it, I'm gonna do everything that I need to do to frickin', you know, I didn't care if I had to look up walkthroughs and other guides and stuff like that to figure it out. You know, I finally beat hard mode on all the scenarios and stuff like that, because I really wanted infinity mode. And in File 2, I think that's actually, now I think about another thing that really pissed me off about File, well, that happened in File 2. It used to be, ooh, that was close, that was close. It used to be a thing where in File 1, you just had to get 100% checklist completion in all scenarios. I think that's fair. But with File 2, you had to do that and beat all of the levels on very hard mode, and that's just not fair. I mean, that's just not really cool, you know what I mean? Like, why? At that point, what would be the point of even having the event checklists? It's just not the same thing, you know what I mean? If you had to beat it on the highest difficulty anyway. For me, the Infinity mode in Outbreak 1 was kind of like the cheat mode to get past all that kind of crap, you know what I mean? So it was just kind of really irritating that that's the route that they took in this game in particular. That's the biggest knock against that, I have to say. But that's just my personal opinion. But I did eventually, you know, work my way through it. I beat it on all the scenarios on hard, and the hardest one I remember being was Desperate Times on hard, and you know, then I kind of seen this hack that somebody did where they made as many antiviruses with George as they could as like their partner, and then they just used like, I think they had like maybe 20 or something like that and a bunch of other weapons. What I did was I like made like 40 fucking antiviruses, and then I used George's ample shooter, and I just took out every, like, I think it's like 30 zombies you need to take out on hard, and that's 50 on very hard. And unfortunately, it did not, the George strat did not work on very hard, because once they, like, there's people that argue, like the experts online argue that Desperate Times is actually one of the easiest scenarios once you understand how the nerve gas route works and stuff like that. I don't really have time, you know. I was already kind of fed up with it all on hard mode and stuff like that. So I was just kind of over trying to figure out all the new strats and how the frickin' nerve gas work on very hard. And it's not, I don't know if it's as easy as people are like talking about on the Outbreak thing. I think there's always people that, like, you know, are so good at these games that they don't understand what it's like for casual players in that regard to beat it on the high difficulties. But another thing was, it's just there was no way, there's not enough, you had to take out 50 zombies, I believe, in the final battle in Desperate Times on very hard. So there sure as hell weren't enough antiviruses that could be made on very hard to be able to survive. And it sucks too, because like on very hard, it's pretty much like hard is similar in that regard. Let me see if I can explain this better. So on hard and very hard, the damage that zombies do is so, it's just, you know, a large amount. Like if I were to get attacked right now on normal, I could probably get to, you know, to caution or orange caution or something like that, right? If it's on hard and you get grabbed, you're pretty much going instantly down to danger, unless if you're like a Mark or maybe a Kevin type character, you know, like with higher health. And you know, very hard, like it doesn't really matter. You're going down into danger if you get grabbed. Like if you get grabbed in very hard, it doesn't matter how fast you mash, like you're pretty much instantly literally going down before they even bite you. You just get pushed down. And I don't know how the hell, you know, like people do it. But literally, like I've seen people will, like, as soon as they get grabbed, they instantly toss the zombie off of them and get, you know, only get like maybe caution or something like that. It's crazy. I don't know if it's something like you gotta tap in preparation or what, but yeah, for the most part for me, like, it doesn't matter who I'm playing as. As soon as you get grabbed, you're going down for the count, right? I can take the, throw the zombie off me, but I'm still gonna be in danger stumbling around. And how it works is essentially, if you're in danger and you're moving slow, especially on higher difficulties, the zombies, they move pretty much faster than you most of the time, and it's, even if you get out of the immediate danger that you were in, you're gonna be struggling in any other room you go in, especially since zombies on hard and very hard, they pretty much get back in the room, in like 3 seconds. Even if you kill them, they respawn instantly, and if they were in the previous room, even if they don't follow you immediately in when the door is open, they're busting out that door in like 2-3 seconds tops. So you don't really have any room to run for the most part, and that kind of that's kind of like game right then and there, especially if they're in your way. And you can have a perfect run, no issues whatsoever, but like as soon as you get touched on one of those difficulties, your whole run, that 10 to 20, 15, 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes that you spent meticulously planning out your entire route, and putting putting items where you need items for later, and all this other sort of stuff. I mean, that just goes all down the drain, and it sucks. And Desperate Times is the worst of it, in my opinion, because once you get to those 50 zombies, if you're unprepared, you're unprepared. And another thing that can also get you is even simply forgetting to destroy those freaking gas canisters, or maybe you misjudge your distance from it, and then when you blow it up to kill out a wave of zombies, you end up taking yourself out in the process. So just when it comes to very hard, in my opinion, you have to have like a perfect run, especially because in hard, the benefit of okay, yeah, they do very high damage, but the upside is there are healing items all over the place. They might not be first aid sprays, but there are herbs all over the place still on hard mode. So it's tough but fair, in my opinion. But on very hard, it's pretty much you gotta have perfect runs here. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Alright, come on, guy, move. Oh, yeah, fucking course. As soon as I get up. Get off of me. Oh, jeez. And bleeding status is one of the worst things that they created for the series, too. But I did eventually actually manage to beat, this entire game on very hard. I didn't bother doing it with Outbreak File 1 because I got the event checklist with Infinity Mode on, before I even unlocked hard and very hard. Actually, I think I had hard mode, but by the way, I didn't really mess with it. And then, obviously, you can just use the file convert, and then you unlock everything in the shop anyway. I think except for, the freaking Infinity Mode, which wasn't an issue for me. I don't mind the grinding when it comes to, in getting to Infinity Mode, because then it at least feels worth it. But yeah, in File 2, it was one of my greatest achievements. I was finally able to beat it. I played as Luke, who is a Kevin type, and he has, I believe, above average health and damage, even compared to Kevin, who is already, a pretty big, one of the best characters in the entire game. And the key is that you have to prepare for the very hard boss battle. The 50 wave zombies, by just constantly grabbing every single resource, essentially, and I mean every single resource you can, and depositing it at that front, in front of the police station. So your healing items, you want to grab every single fucking handgun ammo, because you're gonna need that for the submachine gun, and you're gonna want to get all the films if you can as well, because with the films, You know, you also get the submachine gun, you get a first aid spray, you get the magazine for the submachine gun, and that is very, 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 very critical to have if you're going to be able to complete that scenario, because you do not have time to consistently reload the 30 shots with the normal ammo with the submachine gun. So you're going to want to, you know, have the submachine gun, the magazine for the submachine gun, and when the magazine runs out, you're going to want to, as fast as you can, replenish the magazine with the 9mm handgun ammo. And you're also going to want the shotgun as well, because one gun is just not going to do it. And I think even with the Magnum handgun, I can't even remember. Yeah, I think that's something you could get from Ben, actually. But even then, I mean, that doesn't... On every other difficulty, you can always count on that being like a one-hit kill. But even in very hard, and I think even with Luke, who once again had the above average damage multiplier, you know, who did, you know, so he did extra damage compared to most characters, I don't even think that he did a one-shot KO, if I remember correctly. And once again, I mean, you have to play a perfect game, because if you mess up once, you messed up your entire run. And it is not... Desperate Times was definitely the hardest one for me. Flashback was also a tough one, but it was also easy in the sense of how quickly it goes compared to the other scenarios, especially like how Flashback was on, you know, file or on the easier difficulties, you know, because once you get going on Flashback, things move really, really, really quickly, and once again, it's just kind of an issue of whether or not you have enough supplies for the boss battle, and that's how it works for, I'd say, all of them, honestly. It's just once you get to hard and very hard, is you really have to, you know, save all your resources, the classic survival horror, you know, thing, and the strat, you know, as they say, and just make sure that, you know, as long as you have enough for the boss, you should be fine for the most part. But that was also years ago, so I mean, I couldn't just go back and play these games on the hardest difficulties and be able to beat them. Especially, I got out of freaking Desperate Times by the skin of my teeth, you know. So that is a hell that I don't even want to ever experience in my entire life. I'm good with not having to show it off, you know what I mean? But Underbelly wasn't too bad on very hard once you got into it, but I think I mentioned already, like the staff doors, because there's a staff room door, like the black ones that you can use the staff room key on, and then the break room you have to also do this, is for whatever reason on hard and very, I think it was on, maybe on hard it wasn't there, but I know very hard it definitely was. Yeah, because I don't remember it being like this on hard. I just remember maybe you had to break down one door. Ah, man, see, now I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember. But I know for a fact on very hard you had to break into the employee area because they got rid of the keys for whatever reason, which I think was just really stupid. Like, I would understand it if, like, okay, if you don't play as Jim, you're at a severe disadvantage, right? Because you don't have to start with the key, and because of that, you know, you have to break in, or like with Alyssa or something like that. You know, that's cool, I guess. But if I pick Jim and I get access, and there's a key on, you know, easy and normal, like it should be there as a starting item for Jim in all scenarios. I don't care what kind of channels they want to give, you know. That should be an advantage of playing as Jim on this level. But with very hard, you have to break into the employee area, and then you have to break into the break room, which you need to get into, and that's where you put in the code for the locker to, you know, get the B2F key and stuff. And it's just, it's the most annoying, it's the most difficult to get started on, because the thing is once again, if you can have, you know, like, if you have the competency of two, even just halfway decent players, like, I'm not the best, obviously, as you can tell. I'm probably what a lot of people would consider kind of bad at these games, to be quite honest with you. You know, I think I'm somewhat competent on, you know, the regular levels, and like I said, I think that each of the scenarios at least once on the highest difficulties, right? But like, you know, if I was paired with three other guys that kind of had an idea what they were doing, you know, the same intellect as I have in this game, I think we could obviously come up with ideas. You know, 2 people break down the door while 2 people just hold back the zombies, even if it's on the higher difficulty, with us there to save each other. I mean, it's just clear as day. You know, it's that much easier. It's kind of like the difference between playing Guitar Hero with the guitar controller and playing it with the PS2 controller or something like that. You know, when you play it with the guitar controller, everything is possible, right? You know, you can, as long as you get good enough, you can beat the game with the guitar on expert. That's obviously how it was made to be. But if you use the PS2 controller, I don't care. You probably got to be in like the top 1%, you know, of people to be able to beat Guitar Hero with just the non-guitar accessory, you know what I mean? It's a very weird analogy. It's something that probably only I can understand at this point. But, it's the only thing that I can really think of at this moment in time for me to kind of explain my reasoning and my point. But you're just at a very, 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 very big disadvantage when it comes to not having human players in this game. And I love having AI partners. I know most people hate them, but I'd rather have them here than, you know, not having them at all. I mean, that's once again one of the big things of why I decided to play this game, because it was like, okay, well, it's scary, but at least I have teammates that are going to help me. And that was kind of like a big thing that drew me in to play this game to begin with, you know, lower my guard, as they say. So with that though, jeez, what was I even saying? Goodness sake. Jeez, I hate it when I lose my freaking train of thought. But yeah, now I remember. So like in the Underbelly, like that situation, where you have to break down the doors while zombies are consistently coming in. You know, I've seen people do it on Lone Wolf, but it's just crazy to me because like it's just so hard to replicate, and it's, you know, you need these AI partners to kind of like take the damage for you while you're trying to break down the door, and it's not a quick, easy thing, right? But if you have Alyssa with you, you know, and you're playing as Alyssa, I mean, then things can kind of work out pretty well for you, and, you know, it's just about figuring out which specific lockpick is what works on the door and stuff like that to get you into these areas. And they definitely, I guess, I don't know, I keep bringing up things that like I don't really like about Outbreak 2, and I think that Outbreak 2 relies on, you know, using the fragile doors, you know, maybe you can break down the lock, you know, to get into certain areas and stuff like that. I think they use it too much and rely too heavily on it in the higher difficulties. Because it used to be cool, because back in, like, on the easier difficulties, and I believe for the most part in Resident Evil Outbreak 1, they don't really rely on that mechanic to kind of get into, like, it was just to get into extra rooms that might have some items that you would want to have, you know, like the extra hotel rooms, you know, the bathrooms, and Hellfire's hotel, the back alley and stuff, and the restaurant kitchen and wild things, you know, those things weren't mandatory. They were just like bonus areas that you could break into if you really wanted to and get some cool weapons or Frank. Where's Jake?
Hey, thank you.
Oh, well, I'm sure it'll pop up.
Excuse me.
But
Thanks.
it was just cool that like breaking down doors and stuff like that was something you could do
Hey.
just to get bonus items and stuff like that, rather than something that was mandatory. And that's something that File 2 kind of started to rely on a little too comfortably when came to certain scenarios where it wasn't just for bonus items, you had to break into like a whole bunch of rooms while you're getting swarmed by zombies constantly. And it's just not cool, you know? In a lot of ways, it almost feels like it was kind of like lazy game design because, well, maybe not lazy, but poor game design, because once again, if you're playing with some terrible AI, and like the AI for your partners don't like get upgraded when you go up on difficulties, right? Like easy AI characters, what? He shouldn't have hit me with that. Like my AI partners on easy, they're the same level as you know, what they would be on very hard. So it's not like, you know, plus you're also down already because for whatever reason for offline mode they only allow you to have 2 partners instead of 3, which if you want to see what it's like to have 3 on certain scenarios, you know, you can check the description below. But I don't know, it just doesn't make much sense to me as to why that they built the game around that. And you know, obviously it was meant mostly for online, but they didn't really, the offline was kind of an afterthought in that regard when it came to File 2 and you know, breaking down doors and stuff like that. They just kind of didn't really think about it, unfortunately. Wild Things was also a pretty difficult one on very hard, and that was definitely for me. It was funny on hard. It was like the most difficult one for me to overcome, and then I was able to, I think, beat it, like, because it was the hardest one for me. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get the hardest one out of the way right away. We're gonna do
Help me.
Wild Things on very hard, and if I can't do it eventually, then I might as well give up because this is the hardest scenario. And then it came to you know, because Desperate Times on hard, now I'm thinking about it, like I remember that once I figured out the strat and what I was supposed to do, it was pretty easy for the most part because I just had so many bullets. But then you know, very hard just kind of proved me wrong on that regard. God damn it, get off of my face.
Come on.
God, this is just an annoying room here.
Help me.
Hate Dorothea.
Help.
Or actually, I think it's just Dorothy.
Excuse me.
They also kind of got lazy too, because like Dorothy has a human model in this game, but you can't play as her. Like the model that's playable in this game is like her zombie form. It's just kind of weird. But I like Flashback. It's a really cool story. I think it's got one of the best stories in the entire Outbreak series, honestly. And I gotta admit, like Outbreak, their scenarios, I think they really do a good job of just creating, you know, like really good deep lore and stories in very short spaces, you know. Which once again, I just don't think that. Well, I guess they could tell good stories, but it's just all the extra jam-packed content. It's just not something that we would get in a modern Outbreak title. You know what I mean? Especially not the attention to detail with specific characters like Alyssa and Jim in the subway and all that sort of ooey gooey stuff. All right, let's just wait for this thing to sprout its fumes or whatever. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Can we make it? Yeah. Chee! Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to freaking fill those solvent bottles. But that's the strat there. Because if you kill them with the solvent bottles, chemical bottles, then they won't come back. Alright. I'm not really sure what the strat is here. I'm just going to try and shoot him and maybe see if I can inch my way past him. Oh, perfect timing.
Help. Help.
Distract him. Ooh, yeah, you like that dodge. Okay, come on, really. You gotta distract him, Frank.
Help me. Hey.
Alright, I think you got him.
Come on.
Hold him off, Frank. Alright, let's get the hell out of here. I used to love just like for the funniness aspect of just sitting there at the bottom and then just letting the bees hit me off the vines and fall out of the area once I was done, but I don't really want to get hurt here.
Thanks.
But Resident Evil Outbreak does a really good job, I think more so than any other areas in the Resident Evil franchise, of me wondering what these areas looked like when they were inhabited. You know what I mean? By just normal people and what the daily life was and stuff like that. That and the RPD, I think. You know, I was just wondering like what life was like in Raccoon City before the outbreak.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Especially this building, because like it's a hospital in the middle of the forest.
Yes.
And I just gotta wonder, like,
Come on.
how, I don't know, it just seems like a really weird location for a hospital, in my opinion, you know what I mean? Alright, well, we don't really have any choice here. They're gonna knock us down no matter what we do. Uh-oh. But there should be a poison, something to cure our poison right around the corner here. I do remember Underbelly was also a bit of a challenge for me on hard, but I don't remember it being too difficult. It was just figuring out, you know, it took me quite a few tries to finally get past the Megabyte boss battle.
Excuse me.
Because I always just was not prepared for it, resource-wise.
Thank you. Come on. No.
And then End of the Road, I think I was able to beat those pretty relatively easy. It's just a long journey, but you just gotta not get hit. And, you know, you don't have to do the special Nyx ending or Linda ending. You just gotta complete the scenario. So it's pretty easy to get past,
Come on.
you know, the Tyrant, I think it's Tyrant R or whatever, during the countdown if you don't have Linda. But if you do have Linda, yeah, that's when it just gets to be ridiculous, because, you know, you have to take them out or else you're not saving Linda. But, you know, once it's actually, I think, the easiest scenario on very hard, ironically enough, because it's the one where you can actively avoid the boss battle. And remember too, they actually were pretty sneaky where they put the Tyrant bomb on very hard too. And if you like you have to, it's in the control room where you have to move the crate into the red circle so that way the floor breaks. And to even start to push that crate, you have to push one to the side first. And if you push that crate to the side first without checking like on the other side of it where you push it, eventually, you know, you lose the opportunity to be able to get the Tyrant bomb, because that's where it is. So if you push it in the path of the Tyrant bomb switch, there's just literally no way to push it out. So it's not 100% needed, but if you want the best ending with Linda, you know, and for whatever reason you think it's worth taking a shot at it, you know, you're gonna need that Tyrant bomb. It always irritated me too, because, you know, you can kill these plants and they shrivel away and don't come back, but not the ones on that giant ladder that I was climbing earlier. This room's always kind of freaky, and because you never know if like zombies are gonna be here or not. And if they are, I mean, it's kind of like, even if you have a gun and if they're right there, you know, there's just nothing you can do to avoid that poison that's gonna spew out of them. Very annoying enemies, quite honestly, but very cool ones too. Just a lot of really awesome, cool enemy designs in this game. Both these titles, honestly. was always disappointed they didn't have any human subway rail workers and that you could buy and play as in this game. It just seems like it was a no-brainer, and, you know, or they could have at least put, you know, like Amelia and you know, the rest of the female girls as like a Underbelly scenario thing you can unlock. Just because, you know, she's the one that gets pulled into the ceiling and they aren't playable in any other fashion, so it's just weird to me that, like, you know, they have all the extra models to be able to play as, like, those characters, and, you know, like, you know, the freaking Umbrella researchers or cops and stuff like that, but they don't have it for the subway. It's so strange to me. And also, this is probably the worst boss fight in the entire series, just because there's no way to predict when these things are going to, you know, where the rocks are going to drop and all that stuff. So it's in a lot of ways it's kind of like a luck-based thing. And I don't know if I'm not even on the path to getting the best ending, but I figure, you know, why the hell not, just for the culture, even though I'm not actually gonna be able to show off the ending, because I'm just gonna skip the cutscene anyway. Golly gee willikers, man. Out of ammo too.
Help me.
There, you get back here, buddy. God damn it, they, like, perfect rock placements for him too. Which is working out a little too well for the Axeman here. I feel like this is Dorothy's work here. I don't think I had a question of the day, but if you guys have watched this far in the video, my question of the day for you is, what is your favorite Resident Evil Outbreak scenario, just out of the two games? And which one do you think has the best lore? Me, it's definitely got to be Flashback, especially in like that locker room there. You can find a file about like these guys who just happen to come across this, you know, the hospital, and, you know, they were like, I can't remember the exact term, but it's botanist, I think it's called, actually. And it's really cool to see, you know, the guys talk about, you know, like how, oh, it's great, we found this new species of plant, which was Dorothy, and then, oh wait, no, now they trapped us in here, we can't get out, and then, you know, the hint of the Axeman coming and stuff like that too was really awesome. And, you know, just really, really great lore setup, and you know, doing a great job of just explaining what's kind of to come and stuff like that, you know. Just really good stuff, you know. I think they just did a really great job with the flashback in that Arclay Mountain hospital location. Which is interesting, because I don't even know if that hospital has a specific name, honestly. But now we're playing as Gary, and I believe Gary has a model. I think it's actually broken or something like that, like the textures. But I think if it's put together, like it's a model of him with like some blood hanging out of his mouth. I think it's just called Gary B. I don't know if it was meant to be playable or not, but yeah, it's just where it was hinted at that he was like shot in the back or something like that, and people were speculating that it would have been like Nikolai would have done it or something like that, and that would have been really awesome. You know, I don't know, I'm just kind of curious to see what, I really wish we could have just seen what we missed out on those File 3 scenarios and stuff like that, and gotten more information about it. And like I said, man, I think Resident Evil Outbreak could work in a modern setting as long as they put the effort in for it. You know what I mean? But that's kind of the big thing, is whether or not they would want to put the effort in. That was a close one. That was almost a Gary sandwich. Alright, he's dead. Okay, grab the secret file that exposes Chief Irons that's just hanging down here for some reason. You'd think it'd be in like the, like in some sort of evidence room or something like that. It was always kind of lame to me. Like, I guess I get it.
Hey,
And it was always lame to see like the doors that they put in these games, and then you go up to it and it just says, oh, the door is shut very tightly and you can't get in. To just block you from like getting into these areas. And at least I'll give it credit for File 1. Once again, like with a lot of those doors, especially in like the first scenario, they would actually, you know, show the animation of you trying to open the door. But like in File 2 and stuff like that, you know, it's just like, oh, you can't get into the room that Marvin would enter, or you can't get in the room where the liquor would be on, I believe, the west side of the police station because the door is shut too tightly. Well, what the fuck does that even mean? It's shut too tightly. Like, you could have at least put some, like, it would have even made perfect sense in a lot of ways, too. If you just put, like, some plywood on the board, because that fits the theme of what's going on in this area, as well as what would happen in Resident Evil 3 later on. It's just, obviously, in Resident Evil 3, it was, like, the opposite side that was cut off, rather than, you know, the east side that you explore and, you know, the outbreak in this scenario here. But no, we can't see where that liquor would be and go to the other side of the RPD because the doors that lead to there are just shut too tightly. Who the hell even shut them so tightly anyway?
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Ought to give them a piece of my mind, gosh darn it. And that's Kate, by the way, the chick that was supposedly supposed to turn into the first Regis liquor. And I think they even hinted at that, like, there was gonna be like her in the one scenario, like Streets of Raccoon or something like that, where it's gonna be like the first part of that transformation, and then she was gonna come back in Hellfire as that Regis liquor that we seen in the one that we officially fight. So I think there's like two variants of that. Like, there's a variant of the Regis liquor, Regis or whatever the hell you want to call it, liquor. There's just a version of it we never seen because the Streets of Raccoon scenario got cut off. And it would have been really cool to have like an enemy you fight on one scenario come back and fight you again in a later one, and it would have made sense as to, you know, where the hell, you know, she came from in Hellfire scenario.
Excuse me.
And it just would have made that like cutscene of her like dropping in really cool, in my opinion. It was already pretty cool, but it would have been made it even better, is what I'm trying to say here. I'm a bit nervous. Another thing that kind of irritated me was I loved, and like as far as the horror element goes, yeah, it's having the characters constantly talk during their ad-libs. It definitely killed like the fear that you might have in File 1, because they would just yell and shout the most stupidest, like the dumbest stuff constantly.
Thank you. Yes.
But you know, it does make File 2 just a lot quieter than I would like, you know. Especially, it irritates me that they have the ad-lib sound effects for the Japanese version still, but not the English version. And it's like, you know, what the hell is the point of having it in the Japanese version? I mean, yeah, I know English is a mandatory thing to learn over there as well, I believe, but still, man, I mean, doing me quite sour, as the kids these days might say. Ugh. Such a pain in the ass to climb up this ladder. Imagine you just work in the RPD building and you had to deal with this shit. You know, you just had to go up to the second floor and then you had to either climb this ladder or just go all the way around. You know, like past like 6, 7 rooms just to get to where you needed to go. There's also a cool Easter egg. The box I'm standing on right now is actually a storage box. You know, that would be in like, you know, the save rooms and stuff like that. That's just a cool Easter egg. Speaking, just because I'm on the topic too, another thing that pisses me off that I think I mentioned already about File 2 is that they didn't return the gallery music, you know, the collection theme music from File 1. You know, that was a banger theme in my opinion. It was unsettling, but it also was, you know, put you at ease. Which is what, you know, all good Resident Evil save theme musics do. Put you at ease while letting you know, hey, you're still fucked. Just not in this room. Alright, well, now we just gotta go and get the last two, which... Gotta get one from the safe, and then we gotta get one from, I think I gotta go to, like, the hall or whatever. I think it's in the interrogation room is what I'm thinking of, actually. Oh jeez, I don't even have a freaking gas canister anymore. Gah! Come on, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Oh great, I have this jackaloon. They don't have that girl cop that's playable either. I think that's kind of interesting. You would have thought they would have like a girl cop pack as well, but I guess not. Maybe I'm just, you know... Maybe I'm just alone in my pursuit of girl power, you know? Sorry for being a man who fights for the rights of every woman. Alright, let's see here. So we got all we need here, but... I don't really want to come back and get this damn shotgun. What do you mean no? Get back over here. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Come on, yes.
Did they get him? Oh. Oh yeah, just steal the fucking thing that I just put down, asshole. Yeah, you're gonna give me that handgun, pal. Nice try.
Yes.
Ah, jeez, too many items, not enough time. Cause I don't want to, you know, spend too much time just preparing for this level. You know, it's already gonna be a long enough video.
Come on. Yes.
I'm sure there's some people that could complete both of these games in like under 2 hours, quite honestly. But you know, even though I'm playing on like, you know, difficulties that are like half theirs and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm a casual gamer. I'm here to have fun. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to complete these all as fast as I possibly can, but. That said, you know, I'm not perfect, you know, I'm playing on normal difficulty, except for wild things. I was playing that one on easy just because I didn't feel like, you know, I didn't feel like going into the extra areas and having to deal with all the, you know, lionesses and stuff like that, that if you actually read it in a file too, it's just really bad timing. I feel bad for them too, because they were transferred from other zoos. So I really do feel bad for those, you know, lionesses. But yeah, they were literally just transferred in from other zoos just so, you know, the Max the lion, or Stalker as he's called, as the enemy type, could, you know, they could have some alone time, as they say.
Thanks.
But I don't know, I feel like, I think they said there was only 2, but honestly it's just for the sake of the difficulty for the scenario, but I think there's like 6 or 7 on the harder difficulties, and obviously there's like the one that comes in and helps on hard, and then there's the 2 that come in and help on very hard. I can't even remember, like I know I killed all 3 of them. I had to have, because maybe. See, I don't know. I had to have killed all 3 of them on very hard because there was just no way I was going to be able to win that fight if having to deal with all of them at the same time. Let's see here. I'm trusting this to stay here, guys. All right. Don't fail me. Alright, so we're gonna get the submachine gun from Ben, who somehow managed to smuggle that up his ass, I guess, and so that way he could crap it out in his prison cell. That also, I believe, doesn't seem to have a toilet, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there, but then again, I guess it's not too unfair considering none of the officers have a bathroom to use here either. Or wait, no, I think the submachine gun's up here, actually. This is also just a great shot, too, but it's also kind of a dumb one, because, like, what the hell is he doing there, and what attacked him? Maybe it was, like, a liquor. I don't know, but... like, what the hell was that car doing there? Was it there to transport and, you know...
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
help put this barricade up?
Thank you.
And then he died on his before he could make it back, or...
Excuse me. Excuse me.
I don't know, it's just a very confusing set piece here as to what that car is doing here. It would have made more sense if the reason why you couldn't get out here wasn't because of this barricade, but because, like, this van of this dude was driving, like, completely blocked your way out. Like, I feel like that would have made, well, a hell of a lot more sense. But I don't know, I didn't create these games, so I can only offer my input on these games that cannot be changed. Man, you didn't even notice Kate there. Say you needed someone with some meat on their bones. But the kennel is another good example of, like, File 2 relying on the fragile door mechanic where you had to break it down. I think you can just get keys and they just don't tell you what keys work on which doors in this. But, I mean, that said, you had to get into the kennel to be able to get one of the, you know, to get some of those plates. I think, like, it's the ruby plate on one and then the onyx plate on the other.
Excuse me.
I can't quite remember, but I do have key IM videos if you want to check those down below.
Thanks.
Sorry, folks. I mean, it's like a 3-hour video here. You know, I gotta plug my stuff. You know, gotta get my shit in, as some might say. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's what I thought, pal. That doesn't work for me, brother. Alright, well, we should be ready for this big battle that we're about to enter here. Let's see here. I know I said, I even stressed the fact, like, hey, you know, you really need this freaking machine gun, you know, magazine so that way you can load and reload so much faster for this boss fight. But I mean, like, it's only normal difficulty. I think we should be fine, you know, especially since we got all this all our partners and stuff like that. God damn it, who the fuck just shot that? Alright.
Help.
Yes.
Now, I'll be honest, maybe it's just because, like, I wasn't I was just oblivious to it. What the fuck did you just shoot that for? Oh, good lord. Yeah, all these frame drops don't really occur when I'm actually playing the game, so I don't know what the deal is, why they're happening during the recording process. That's just weird to me. Yeah, as as you can see, like reloading with it without the magazine on normal isn't that big of a deal. Especially since we have our partners. Partners are also very critical to me and like how I was able to actually complete the scenarios. You know, like a lot of people say, oh, well, it's just easier to complete these without them. I honestly needed their help a lot of the time, you know? Just as like, you know, whether they held extra inventory items for me or, you know, helping me up if I made a mistake. Stuff like that, you know?
Excuse me.
But that said, on like very hard, desperate times, I remember I did have to do that alone because not only would they continuously, like if I put down ammo or something like that down here in this area, the fuckers were like a, you know, a healing item or anything. I couldn't trust these fuckers to not take it. And then, you know, I wouldn't have it for the thing later. Not that I even made it. But yeah, if you're wondering the jump cut, yeah, we actually did beat that level. But as you can tell, obviously, you know, no cutscenes and stuff like that. Just to save on so much time. Otherwise, this would be probably like a 5-hour video, to be honest with you. But you just have to take out 20 on normal. But yeah, that one was very hard. Excuse me, very hard. Desperate Times was probably the only one that I actually did by myself. Just because, like, they would die in like the first 5 seconds anyway. Like they couldn't even be trusted in a single room without being grabbed. I mean, like I said, they don't have updated AI from like easy mode to very hard or whatever. They're not smart enough to understand, hey, I shouldn't stand here and let this zombie grab me. You know, they don't, it doesn't register in the AI's mind like, hey, this is not a good idea. And I don't know, Capcom, especially the PS2 and Xbox 360 era, they didn't really always have the best AI. I mean, obviously people always complain about the Sheva from Resident Evil 5. I haven't really experienced that myself. I'm not really too interested in Resident Evil 5. I played it a little bit with my buddy, Ray, you know, my buddy. I'm not gonna name his name actually here.
Excuse me?
But, you know, we didn't, it's just, I liked Resident Evil 6 because it was, you know, non-stop action, you know, whereas Resident Evil 5, it didn't grip me, I'll be honest with you. And it's just the environments kind of seemed very samey and just couldn't grip my attention, you know. But that's just me personally. Obviously, you know, most people like Resident Evil 5 a lot more than Resident Evil 6. I always wonder, like, what were the stories that were gonna be told if, you know, Resident Evil 6 had been successful. You know, I'm glad they went back to survival horror, especially since that's gotta be the biggest reason as to why they eventually, you know, made the remakes, because they had a lot to atone for, just not in Resident Evil 6, but just Capcom in that era, just in general. But I've already said it like a million times, like a lot of the mistakes they made at that time. But that said, man, I mean, I think people, Resident Evil 6, I think is definitely overhated. Like, it's not the typical Resident Evil experience. That is 100% for sure. It is high action, there is a lot going on, and it's not always the best story that's been told. But that said, I think it's definitely just a big thing to kind of hate on Resident Evil 6, when I feel like for the most part it's a very good working game mechanically. Yeah, sorry, I'm still kind of getting over a little bit of a sickness there, so sorry if you have to
Someone help me!
hear my sniffles every once in a while. I'm trying to contain them, but they keep coming back. I feel like I get this set of password often. I just never remember the actual password I'm supposed to put in. Like, you know, the 1, 2, 3s and that's 3, 1, 2 or whatever. Guarantee if I play this again and I get those sets of numbers again, I'm not gonna remember it's 3, 1, 2, despite getting it all the freaking time, I feel like. But you see there, I'm a man who helps out their partners. And Bone here is an interesting case. because it's kind of hinted at that, like, okay, he's in league with David, you know. And David's a mysterious character. Like, nobody knows if he's actually a plumber. Some people speculate that he's a hitman. That's why he holds his gun with one hand like a gangster or whatever. As well as the fact that, like, his age is unknown, I believe. And just, you know, he's got this whole survivalist mentality and stuff. But Bone is just a character, like, nobody even knows what the hell he could have potentially been a part of. Maybe he could have been in the streets of Raccoon as like a zombie or something like that, because, you know, he was a plumber, so he accidentally drank the contaminated water or something. I don't know. But, you know, people say he's in league with David, obviously because he's also a plumber, but he's not a David type. He's a Kevin type, and that isn't from me accidentally hacking him in the wrong space. He's just, Bone is a Kevin type character. So it's always just weird to me, like, wondering, you know, were these guys supposed to be hitmen just disguised as plumbers? And that's why, like, Bone here is just, you know, like an expert marksman in a plumber's outfit. Like, it just kind of raises a lot of questions that are just never going to get answered here. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
Also, like, just even the name. Like, what the hell kind of a name is Bone? Is that even a name anybody ever actually has? It seems like a code name kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
I'm going to see real quick if there's any sort of extra information on our buddy here that, you know, maybe they figured out from an interview as of late or recently or something like that. Well, apparently he's listed as deceased on the Resident Evil wiki. I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't even really... I feel he should just say, like, doesn't exist or something like that. It says here, sex, male.
Hey.
So that must mean he prefers guys, so he probably is gay. Which, yeah, interesting that they... that's probably the reason why he was never included in the series. You know, PS2 era was still not a progressive time, we'll put it that way. And yeah, there's not really any other information about him.
Come on.
So, not really too much I can add as far as, you know, Bone and any character. You know, like I said, just as mysterious as, you know, his speculated partner David there. Maybe that's what David is so mysterious. He's not a gangster or anything like that. He's just gay, and maybe the reason why he holds his gun with one hand is because he's just not man enough to hold it with both hands. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, folks. These aren't the questions I have the answers to. Oh, jeez, 3 freaking hunters here.
Come on.
I'm so glad that, like, these guys aren't featured throughout the entire scenario, because they're kind of a pain in the ass. Especially with, like, all these hallways. But end of the road is, for the most part, just kind of like a point A to point B kind of scenario. You know, it's just getting to the next section of the map rather than, you know, backtracking of any kind for the most part. Which there is a little bit. Obviously, we're doing that right now. But I mean, just, you know, we go from the lab to the sewers to the surface. Stuff like that, you know, until eventually we can get out of the freaking city. Alright, we gotta turn around here. Turn it upside down.
Come on.
Bone knows where Linda is.
Hey.
I'm gonna probably prepare my exit before we go to get the key card here. Just gonna get the crowbar and come back, and I'm thinking I'm gonna actually, I know I'm trying to do this quick, but I really want to get rid of all these damn hunters. Just so they don't become some issue where I end up bleeding and then I end up, you know, getting my ass kicked by the freaking tyrant. Alright, come on, buddy. Let's hurry this up, man. He's so tiny. I can't believe he actually took 2 bullets, too. Especially with the pot shot. Man, it's such a bummer knowing that Alyssa's like killed in gonna be dead in Resident Evil 9. It'd actually be pretty crazy though. I think some people are speculating it. That, you know, they had to have a stalker enemy in, like, every Resident Evil game now, I guess. And, they're speculating that Alyssa is going to be the stalker monster in this one, and that she's going to be there to mostly protect her daughter. I think that'd be kind of a cool, interesting... with the tooth, you know what I mean?
Come on!
But, I don't know how likely that would actually be. There's also a lot of speculation, but there has just been for like freaking years since, you know, like the Resident Evil 2 remakes that Code Veronica is going to get remade at some point as well. I don't know if I'd buy it personally. Oh, come on. Bastards. Alright, he's not getting away with that disrespect. Good.
Someone help me!
Gonna have to beat him into submission.
Thanks, dude.
Alright. That's why they call us a submission sorority.
Thank you.
See, I can't give them these weapons because then they'll take them out, they'll try and use them, and then the hunters will break them. Which is another reason why I'm trying to get rid of these assholes, just so like we don't end up with any broken handguns.
Someone help me!
Because I'm kind of also relying on them to help me out here.
Someone help me! Help!
Hey, come on, guys, can you, I don't know, help me out here? Amelia!
Help me!
Yeah, she's the one that like gets dragged up in Underbelly, by the way, in the women's bathroom. You didn't see it in this level, but or this playthrough, but just know that she's the one. There's actually, I even have like a video. I used to do like mess around with hacks and walk through wall glitches and stuff like that back in the day, like when my channel first started. I actually started this channel and it was pretty much like an Outbreak channel at first. Before, you know, eventually I moved on to like Aki stuff, and then, you know, my main channel became the Aki channel, and then I created this gameplay channel actually, so it wasn't this channel in particular that was an Outbreak channel, but, you know, it was my original one, and that's why I still have like the, you know, the Outbreak key item guides and event checklist guides and stuff like that, but, you know, so hopefully I've actually helped a lot of people, you know, with this game, with like finding very difficult things and checklist points and stuff like that. But I mean, that said, there's a video I have where, you know, walk through walls hack. I was playing as Chuck, another unplayable character actually, and I wanted to like check out something. Like I just named the video something stupid. Because at the beginning of my channel, I didn't really say anything. I didn't really know what to name most of my videos. Like, I just have one that's like hacks gone wrong and hacks gone right and stupid stuff like that. And, one of them was like, I think the one in particular was called like Outbreak's Biggest Secret, and it's just where like if you can walk past if you walk away from the loading zone, you can walk past it in the women's bathroom of Underbelly. And if you do that, you can just kind of walk to the other side of the wall, and there'll be like a close-up camera shot of Amelia before she dies, and she'll just be sitting there breathing heavy, because she doesn't get pulled up through the ceiling until you get close enough to her. And it's weird because there's an unused camera angle of her. Well, I guess it's not unused. It's meant to be like the blood splatter and everything like that for the player to see. After she's dragged up, but
Come on.
it just makes you wonder, because like I think the blood splatter doesn't even show up until after she's pulled up too. So it's just interesting how that whole cutscene works and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's the closest thing to like a boundary break that I would do. But yeah, the side that I was just on, that is where the tyrant bomb would be on very hard. So now that I push this there, I cannot grab the item that was that's in front of that box. And I think on this difficulty it's the Magnum. So
Get going. Get
I
going.
probably should have actually grabbed that before
Go.
continuing.
Come on.
All right, come on, girls, let's get out of here. I'm not talking about you, Mr. X. Got him. I guess I should have said Mrs. X. I used to think his name was Dr. X for some reason.
Dude.
But I don't know, I guess that's not really important anyway. Just adding input, Small little details about being on Mac that you can tell all your friends about. It's interesting because, like, even on this channel, like, I have, like, videos, at least once every week, I get 1 to 2 shares on this channel. But I don't get too many views, and I just kind of wonder, like, who's sharing my stuff? And, like, is it, they're sharing it's like, oh, hey, man, check out this dude. He's really good at what he does, and, really entertaining videos. Or it's just like, man, check out this dude. He's a clown, Check out this particular spot in the video and see just how goofy he is, I have to wonder. Just wondering who's sharing and for what reasons. So if you're a guy who's sharing these videos, you gotta let me know what you're sharing it for and who you're sending it to, just out of curiosity.
Come on.
And for what purpose? If you just want to be right up front and honest about it and say, yeah, I think your videos are trash, and I'm just sending it to make, fun of you, just be honest with you. I'm not going to really care on that one. I'm that curious about it. Gosh darn it, this freaking camera angle changes keep getting me. Let's see here. You're going to see what kind of ammo we're working with over here. So I think it changes depending on like what difficulty you're on. Acid rounds? Or like ass rounds. I ain't grabbing that trash. Let's get out of here. Good. Alright, I'm gonna wait for them to come down here with me.
Come on.
Because I don't really want to be separated. I probably should have had one stay back. Because then they would come back with the mine detector, but it's not that big of a deal, We'll just get through it. And now that I think about it, I don't think we have too many healing items, so I don't know, maybe this wasn't really a good idea, but I think we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Because I'm not going to go for the Linda ending or anything like that. We're going to go for just a quick tyrant ending here, folks, so once that's over with, that's going to be the end of the video. Ah, jeez, now I gotta give him the freaking handgun bullets.
Excuse me. Thanks.
Gotcha.
See, I'm always kind and courteous to my partners. Even when they say thank you, I say yes, of course. You're welcome. That's just common courtesy, folks. Something that's just lost in our the current generation of youth, in my opinion, Life was so much simpler before everyone was already, you know, freaking preoccupied with their smartphones and their, you know, that has the calculators and their alarm clocks set to the phones. You know, back in my day, we had separate tools for that. You know what I mean? But now, because of that, you know, kids, they're walking around with their calculators on their phones and alarm clocks on their phones, and they're spoiled because of it, and they have no respect or common courtesy for their fellow man. They disgust me. Can I have a... Oh, she healed me. Beautiful. Let's see here. See, there's too many good items here, man.
Hello? Hello? Excuse me.
Ginger, take the fucking
there.
item.
Hey.
Jeez Louise. Alright, hold your hiney down.
Hello?
Take this. Wait a minute. Take the damn thing! The hell is wrong with you?
Hey.
Now take this and use it.
Hey.
Okay, Amelia, you take these.
Hey.
And I am going to take this.
Wait.
Yes.
I thought there was supposed to be a zombie right there, but maybe he blew up in the explosion. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this zombie right here is like the zombified version of Conrad. But they say, oh no, the hair's a darker color, like he's a zombie. That's probably why. It's just the lighting of the character or something like that, you know what I mean?
Wait.
Alright. Yeah, see, for the most part, I know where the mines are, so we don't have to worry. Alright, I think there's some more shotgun ammo down here. Yup. They better not make me mad now. Alright, now we just have to escape, and then that'll be that, fellas. Let's see if we can make it without getting our booty smacked. Good!
Help.
Alright, never mind. I guess I just got my cheeks pressed together, so I can't even do that correctly. Come on, are we going, guys? Jeez Louise. I ain't coming back to save your ass. Like, that one I don't think is Conrad, by the way. It's another one. Like, literally looks identical, but he, like, has, like, a different hair color. So people are trying to say it's not supposed to be the same guy. God damn it. That one always gets me. I just can't remember where it's at. Alright, alright. This thing's a lot harder to use than you think.
Help me.
You
Someone help me.
know, I could use some help here. Damn, they just don't give you enough time on this road. Green herb. Alright, screw it. I gotta get my ass out here. Ah, shit. You guys hold them off. Son of a bitch. Alright. Like I said, I'm here for my partners. I can't just abandon them in their time of need. We can do this and we can make it. Oh, God. I can't do this. Wait a minute. 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 Quee!
Thank you.
Chee! Yeah. And Ginger with the heal there. The much needed heal. But we got him, folks. Now we just gotta get the hell out of here. I should be able to make it there fine. If I had Linda with me, I already would have lost. It's that slow. It is just so lame. I think if you don't beat him with like a minute and like 20 seconds to spare, you're not going to make it with Linda. Like, you got pretty much like a 30-second window to clear. Because even here, as you can see, like, you know, moving pretty fast, but like, you know, only had like 2 or 3 seconds to spare, so. But that's going to be all for today's video, guys. So if I, you know, offered any interesting insights or, you know, helped you reconnect with some old Resident Evil Outbreak memories or anything like that, or connected with you guys in any sort of way, you know, and you made it this far, all the way to the end of the video, please leave a like and, you know, subscribe if you haven't already to this channel. And I'm going to leave the epilogue in here for you guys if you want to check that out. But thank you so much for watching. But above all else, please remember to have a nice day.
Before long, as they always do, people stopped talking about the catastrophe that struck down the once peaceful town of Raccoon City. Time, as they say, heals all. Yet, even so, we must never forget about the horrific events leading up to the catastrophe, or history will surely repeat itself. However, the harsh reality may be that mankind lacks the power to close the book on this disaster once and for all.